This is only our second showcase, first one in December. We had 28 vendors present then. Today, we have over 40 to present today. Thank you for attending. Lots of new faces, lots of familiar faces. It's great, those introductions and networking going on. And thank you to all those presenting later on today. So for those who are maybe new, or as a reminder for the Foundation's mission, it's to advance every individual who manages the value of cloud with enriching connections through community, professional advancement in training and education, and defining clear roadmaps of success with resources for all practices. This community helps create and support skilled practitioners to fill the ever-expanding industry we're seeing rapidly grow before our eyes. I just want to say thank you to all our partners, CloudHealth by VMware, Google Cloud, Sada, Deloitte, Accenture, Vertisent, Apptio Cloudability, McKinsey & Company, Nordcloud, an IBM company, Software One, Tencent, Spot by NetApp, Turbonomic, an IBM company, HCL, Flexera, Kubecost, Ternary, and Cloudfix. It's also worth noting how fast this community is growing. You'll see on the top left, the number was 7,000 less than a month ago. It's already got 300 more this month. So welcome to all those new members as well. Also, thank you to our premier enterprise partners, Apple, JP Morgan, Chase & Company, and Fidelity Investments for all that you do to add to the community in multiple areas, including the governing board, the technical advisory council, and the working groups themselves. Also, thank you to increasing general partners, some of which we'll be presenting today. So we just wanted to start with a brief look back at FinOps X, which was the Foundation's first annual conference, held in hot Austin, Texas last month, although some people might say it's not as hot as the UK recently in the recent weeks. Personally, it was amazing to spend time with the community. And I know the Foundation team, some of which are taking a well-deserved break today, really enjoyed reading all the social posts and the insights from attendees. It was truly special, that first event, and the bar is high, I think, for next year. And those that could not make it, we really hope you can make it next year. In the event, there was huge amounts of content. One of the common threads we heard was, we don't know which one to go see, we didn't know which breakout to go and visit. Some of my favorites were the FinServe FinTech keynote, also the sustainability panel, which is a key topic within the Foundation itself. Most of the content, we're actually just waiting for a few more approvals, is now available on our YouTube channel. I know I'll be catching up in the next couple of weeks just to kind of digest it all, but please do go check it out. Consume it all. There is a wealth of content there. I know it's great to see these topics are being brought into the Slack community as well, because reference for conversations ongoing. But we also made a few announcements within FinOps X as well. One of which is we're pleased to kind of announce that the State of FinOps website has been launched. If you've not already, please check it out. We also support the working groups with custom data slices from this to inform and feed best practices and resources that they deliver. So if you're ever inquisitive about what data is there or extra data, please just reach out to the team. If it can help those working groups or yourselves, just let us know. We're always interested in how people are using this data. It is for the community. We are looking forward to next year's survey, actually. We're starting to plan that next month, believe it or not, but we will be collecting data, starting to collect the data close to the end of the year. But also we launched the job board, FinOps job board. It's all the FinOps jobs in one place. We've already seen a lot of traffic to this. Our enterprise members, including Apple, JP Morgan, Chase, and Fidelity Investments, already have roles on there. So if you're looking to take the next step in your career, it's worth taking a look. Also, if you're hiring, if your team is hiring, you can submit jobs to be listed so they can be publicized throughout the community. There has also been a recent update in our training, which Rob Martin, our Director of Learning from the Foundation, can tell us more about. Over to you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. So we're very excited because this is the first major upgrade we've had, or update we've done to the FinOps Certified Practitioner courses since we started back in 2019. But as of last Thursday, all of our course modules have been refreshed. So if you're taking the FinOps Certified Practitioner training as an instructor-led, that material has been updated. If you're taking it as a self-paced course, that has been fully changed into an interactive e-learning format. So gone are the days of watching me in my bookshelves for hours on end on videos. You're now interacting with our new learning management system. in an exciting new way. So people who take the course have had really good feedback so far. We did the new instructor-led format in Austin. Ben and Idalise delivered that, and that was a great new addition. So we're going to be doing the course more in person a little bit more this year, and then starting next year we'll be doing more of those in-person courses as well. So the new course material reflects the new framework information and the adopting FinOps content and some of the other content on finops.org. It matches everything up, and we're very excited to see that launch last week. So any of you who are taking the course now, if you've got any issues or questions along the way, training@finops.org is an email for us to reach out. But you should have all seen, anybody who is in process or has purchased the course should have seen that change over to the new content. And we're very excited to hear back from you on how you like it. One other thing I wanted to talk about related to training is our F2 scholarship fund. So we announced early this year that we are dedicating $100,000 of scholarship money to those who need help getting our training as a way to foster and help develop the careers and the advancement of you all in our community who are doing this job and really stepping up to the next level. Since May, we've awarded $42,000 of that $100,000 to 58 people in 20 different countries. So congratulations to all of you who have gotten some of that. If you or someone you know would like to apply for the scholarship fund, either for diversity reasons or because you're a student or because there's a need, please reach out to us again on training@finops.org and let us know how we can help. We're really committed to getting this $100,000 out into the community this year. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to send that out to the people who need it and get more and more people trained up. Very excited to do that. Thanks.
Definitely a passionate of the foundation to use that scholarship fund. We do have one more last announcement to make around events. It was a key one. It was a hot topic at FinOps. What's happening next? So we will be hosting a community event at AWS reInvent. This is with our related Linux Foundation program, CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So if you're going to be at reInvent or you're planning to be at reInvent, please join the reInvent Slack channel in the community. We will keep you updated about registration details. They will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be launching that very soon. Also, we know a large part of our community is in Europe, and we wanted to bring them together next year in Amsterdam. This community event is going to include keynotes, very popular talk format, which was kind of hosted at FinOps. It was really popular, much more than we expected, and an evening reception. So the event is currently planned for March 14th. We need to put some foundational stuff in place first, but please mark your calendars. Keep you informed of updates, and registration is open. Just from our experience at FinOps, space will be limited. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. Okay, I now know why JR puts these slides in place. I speak very fast. Okay, so housekeeping's done. Now onto the main part of the content. The FinOps tooling and services showcase. This is all around how the partners and vendors will show you how to create success within these capabilities. This is super important. I just want to cover the code of conduct. We're here to contribute, respect others. Please don't share any confidential information. Speakers, please be respectful of time. We will be jumping in when your time is up, to be fair to others. We do lighten our position on no sales pitches for vendor showcases typically, but we have informed speakers today is not a lead generation activity. So it's not shouting about free trials and webinar signups coming along. It's about informing the community around these defined capabilities and how they align to them. If you do have questions for vendors, you can obviously use the community Slack, and the member calls is always ongoing when summits. There's also tooling services channel. The subject matter experts from these partners are in the community Slack, the product leaders, the thought leaders. They're there to answer your questions. There's also public partner profiles on finops.org where they have information and resources, links to their websites. So there's plenty of information around there. This forum, summit, Slack, events for the foundation, we're here to share stories, best practices, advanced standards. We'll help the practitioners get better at their jobs. If there's any issues you have concerning around the code of conduct, just email membership@finops.org. But otherwise, we can dig into the format. So the showcase format is slightly different. We like to shake things up and do things differently all the time at the foundation. It has two parts. The team will be covering capabilities overview, so everyone is clear on those definitions to start with, and we'll have the initial presentations from the Premier members, and then we'll split into 3 breakouts to cover all the other presentations. We literally would not have enough time on the call if we did it back to back. We have so many to go through. Everything is being recorded. We will be splitting those presentations up. We will be putting onto the website. The whole summit will be going onto YouTube. So you can always catch up on those breakouts you miss or want to catch up on specifically. I'm sure some of you remember the last time we did a showcase, we actually broke Zoom trying to do 28 breakouts. So you don't know what you're kind of going to expect at a showcase. We are sharing screens with partners as well. So it's going to be an interesting experience. As a reminder to all speakers, please keep things aligned to capabilities so we can be ready to kick off. Ben, are you on to cover cost allocation?
I am. Thanks, Steve. So hi, everybody. So cost allocation, this capability sits within the understanding cloud usage and cost domain. And I'm going to put a link to that capability definition in the Slack chat, in the Zoom chat there. This capability is all about understanding where the dollars are going and why. So making sure that with the big question mark sitting over the unknown spending is shrunk down to as small as possible, if not zero. This is a pretty tough challenge considering the set of data that we have to use to do this task. So taking us forward and telling us how they can help us with that, I'm going to hand that over to Jeremy Chaplin. So from Flexera. So Steve, are we going to sort that?
Yeah, Jeremy should be online, ready to share.
Let's do it.
I'm here, guys. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Loud and clear.
Perfect.
Excellent. Great stuff. So I will start my own timer as well. Good day, everybody. I'm going to share with you today what differentiates Flexera cloud cost optimization when it comes to addressing, as Ben said, the complex needs of cost allocation, supporting and showback and chargeback outcomes. But first, let's have a look at what costs can actually be allocated, right? So, of course, we support the major vendors that I'm sure you're all familiar with. But due to the nature of our interface and common bill ingestion capabilities, we also support some of the less used vendors, maybe the Oracle clouds, the Alibaba clouds, and also some of the non-Western regions for the major vendors. But we also have a common bill ingestion interface that you can use to inject any cost into the platform. Some of our customers are using that for labor charges or license cost for on-prem, or pulling costs in from other SaaS solutions to provide a complete total cost of ownership view. So just consider that when you're thinking about cost allocation. Going into our platform now, obviously a tagging strategy is fundamental to good allocation, right? I was going to talk to you today about how we can normalize tags and keys and other things around your tag strategy to help with that. But I think a lot of the other vendors do that as well. What we do that's actually somewhat different in this space is that we're actually able to write tags back to the cloud vendor. So here we have a report which is untagged, instances in AWS. Doesn't have our mandatory tags on here, but I can actually go in and add those tags. I can put a key value pair in there, and it gets written back to the cloud vendor itself. So moving on to actual cost allocation, let's have a quick look at that. We ingest, as I said, costs from all sorts of different sources, which you can see in the platform here. But we have a range of different dimensions that we can then visualize and subsequently allocate that cost by. Of course, we mentioned the tags, and we've got the kind of cloud vendor constructs themselves, the logical groupings of account and resource group and so on, and a lot of categories that are included in the bill data themselves as well. But using our rule-based dimensions, we can bring together rules of all of those different dimensions. So if I wanted to allocate cost of an EC2 instance in a certain account in a certain region with a certain tag, then I can do that with my rule-based dimension structure. Not only that, but rule-based dimensions can also pull in metadata from other sources. That could be simply a CSV, or it could be a CMDB or enterprise architecture tool, so that you can augment and complement your tagging strategy with data from other sources. And then lastly, on rule-based dimensions, you might see here a change in allocation between dates, 2021, 22. Well, actually, we do time-based allocation here. So on a monthly basis, different allocation rules for a certain dimension can be put in, and that retains the historical allocation of cost. as your organization changes. And then lastly, we have a logical grouping of costs we call billing centers. You can allocate costs to these billing centers using the mechanisms that we've just described, but it also has a parent-child kind of hierarchy. So you can do a multi-level allocation of cost here. But there are also role-based access control boundaries. So users can be added to a billing center and they only see that segment of the cost that is allocated accordingly. But then also shared costs are a problem. So we can put shared costs into a billing center. We can distribute that across the billing centers on a proportional basis, as is seen here, but we can also ingest usage metrics and do usage-based allocation. So quick summary, any cost ingested and allocated, tags can be written back to the cloud vendor, costs can be allocated with external metadata sources and are time bound. And lastly, shared costs can be done on a proportional and usage basis. So thank you so much for your time and attention.
Fantastic. I'm going to take that back. There we go. And next we're moving to Jakob from Nordcloud.
Hello, let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Ready?
Okay, we'll go.
Take it away.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Jakob Holak. I'm head of product at Nordcloud Clarity. And at Nordcloud, we believe that FinOps comes with certain hierarchy of needs. And this hierarchy of needs is built on top of cost allocation capabilities. So I think we can say that without proper cost allocation, you won't be able to succeed with other cloud cost management activities. This is how we believe this hierarchy looks like. So at the very bottom, you need to be able to allocate resources and their cost to applications and business units to enable what's upper in this hierarchy. So managing commitments, smart forecasting, and very important piece, use optimization. Without knowledge who owns what and specifically why owns the stuff, you will not be able to drive this distributed decision-making into the right direction. So to have a successful cloud cost management practice, you first need to understand the cost and ownership of your cloud environments. And we believe that the focus on per account, per service, or tag allocation is just not enough. Clarity will help you by allocate the cost to resources and instances of the services that you have in your cloud environment. Then those resources, and I'm saying specifically resources, it can be Lambda instance, it can be EC2 instance, it's just single piece of service that the smallest unit you can have. Those resources will have cost attached, and then you can attach them to environments in applications, setting the right narrative between all the parties. Because when you think about this, what is actually managed by IT, by finance, by business is application and the value it can bring to your company. Of course, on top of this, Clarity will help you with allocating those environments and applications against business context. And this means you can bring Showback, accountability, and ownership on top of those resources. So first of all, use application as your unit of cost management. Second, use Clarity business context for detailed, granular, flexible, and real-time Showback. This is very important that we don't share reports once a month. You can have it updated every hour within our user interface. If you lack proper container structure, tagging, governance, this is solved. Believe me or not, but Clarity can allocate your cost using VPC, subnets, and other net engineering, let's say, concepts, not directly connected with cost allocation, but those are natural boundaries for your engineers when they work with cloud. So probably if something is deployed to one subnet, all the resources and all the cost within the subnet should be allocated to one application, one environment, and will be owned by one team. But if not, if you have shared resources, Clarity will help you allocate and share the cost of single resource like shared DB or something like this between multiple applications, multiple environments, and effectively between multiple teams. You have multi-tenant Kubernetes clusters, not a problem for us. Pod is just one another resource that you can allocate. So we will split the cost of your cluster between the pods, and then you can allocate the pod to applications and environments. Support networking, other shared cost, it's all solved using either predefined algorithms or the one you will bring to the Clarity, and Clarity will make sure that every day the cost is allocated, every hour actually, the cost is allocated against applications, environments, and your business organization. So we want to take you from cost confusion to clarity. You will understand who owns what, why. This is very important part, the why. And by the way, we are multi-cloud. And when I say we are multi-cloud, it doesn't mean we have separate dashboards for all of hyperscalers. We have one data model that is universal, so you can mix and match cost coming from different hyperscalers in applications and environments, and in custom dashboards you will create for you. So there is no separation. Thank you.
We are bang on time. Thank you. Okay. Next, we're going for Maddie from Apptio Cloudability.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
Take it away.
Fantastic. So my name is Maddie. I'm a solution consultant here at Apptio Cloudability. I'll be walking you through a quick demonstration of the Cloudability platform, specifically related to cloud cost allocation. Before I begin, Cloudability has been practicing FinOps for around 10 years, and we have a suite of features for every stage of the life cycle and every level of maturity. But I wanted to start with cloud cost allocation because it's really the baseline skill that needs to be built up to enable financial reporting, optimization, forecasting, and eventually things like unit economics and unit costing. So with allocation, I see it as part of that crawl, walk, run model. In that crawl phase, most of our users are leveraging tag values, maybe account groups. And what you see here is we're normalizing multiple different tag values in different cloud providers that enable us to standardize a single dimension within Cloudability. You're also seeing us pull in Kubernetes labels, clusters, and namespaces, and able to align that back to a standard tag value as well to get a complete roll-up of costs. Now, most of my customers find a challenge here. They can't tag every single resource, or they can't put everything in their accounts into a neat allocation bucket. And that's really where something called Cloudability's business mappings comes in. This is that statement, rule-based business logic configuration that can work across the organization. So here I'm defining our mobile app. Our mobile app exists coming out of a specific set of accounts that contain mobile dev, mobile prod, mobile staging, etc. We also have a managed Kubernetes cluster, and I operate certain namespaces within that environment that contain mobile, right? And I also have a standard application tag because I leverage RDS and S3 and some other standard resources. And I want to standardize all of that into a single application. We can create, as many statements as necessary to handle any level of complexity within your organization. And this is where we can also start to—
Pardon me, and you mentioned this earlier, part of me goes back.
Sorry about that. And so from here, you're able to allocate, any type of resource to standardized dimensions. Going back to this dashboard, you can see, the API, the mobile app, all of these different resources for reporting across all the different cloud providers. But really, you can also use this for that role-based access, right? So your end users can log in and they'll be restricted to only see the resources that are defined by the mobile app. And this is more robust than the cloud service providers because you're not linked into specific subsets of accounts or subscriptions or even tag values. But really, we're looking at all of the different types of resources within our environment, within our different clouds, pulled into the same model, right? So your end users will only ever see the data they're supposed to see. Additionally, moving into that kind of run phase of allocation is a lot of our teams have explosive container growth and really need to be able to understand cost by cluster, cost by namespace, label, and then again, allocate those resources alongside other non-Kubernetes related workloads. Now, finally, kind of the end of that run phase is really being able to understand a full breakdown of shared cost consumption. So customers with large databases, Kubernetes platforms, whatever it might be, are actually using Apptio Cloudability to funnel their consumption data, whether it's networking traffic, app telemetry, data from an APM tool, to actually derive of my shared costs, which applications, which services are actually consuming from these different shared cost buckets. And then we're able to push that data back into their view. So if they log in on the 15th of this month, they'll know I've consumed $7 million of direct cloud costs and another $1 million of shared, as that allocation is happening in real time, driven by consumption. We also see some customers begin to allocate additional resources alongside of cloud to get that full bill of digital for their Showback model.
Maddie, I'm going to have to step in. It is that time.
That was it. I'm done. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, and we're up to Kubecost with Matt. Are you there, Matt? I think you're going to share screen.
Yeah, I'm going to share.
Fantastic. Ready? Take it away.
Hey team, excited to be here. Thank you for good to see a lot of the people we saw down in Austin. Kubecost, we're leader in monitoring and reducing Kubernetes spend. So the question is, why is it a vendor that is so laser focused on Kubernetes? This is data from this survey, the FinOps survey. 60-70% of people are still doing estimates or not monitoring at all Kubernetes specific costs. I forgot to start my timer. I just got to check my watch here. And it's growing very quickly. So obviously this audience knows that the majority of people aren't doing exact cost allocation in the Kubernetes world. And that number is getting bigger. Whoever said at the beginning of the conversation that we want to reduce the size of that unknown question mark. And for Kubernetes shops and Kubernetes workloads, Kubecost is the leader there. We all love Kubernetes. It does a lot. It produces a great application-specific dial tone to the developer, but introduces a lot of allocation challenges, multi-tenant, request versus usage, showing those idle resources, shared costs, obviously, just a big topic between Kubernetes and non-out-of-cluster Kubernetes costs like RDS and S3 buckets. And Kubecost solves those solutions. So why Kubecost is unique, we are very purpose-driven for Kubernetes. We live in the Kubernetes cluster and see every event going on. Built on open source, introduced into CNCF. As a project, we run on any cloud, and most importantly, we run on all clouds, private or public. We don't ask customers to share data with us. So here's a picture of what you see if you're a Kubecost user. The important data here is that Kubecost is entirely API driven and would fit elegantly into another via API, other solutions. So you can see here at the top, I can look at my cost allocation by cluster, by whatever sort of concept I want to. Below, I see the actual CPU, RAM, etc. We can go all the way down to the specific cluster. So you can see a screenshot here that the actual cluster or the container running in Kubernetes. You can see the standard costs, and importantly, this adjustment is a reflection of your customer or the customer's cloud bill, the actual pricing, agreed upon pricing, whether that's Azure, Amazon, or your own custom price list that you use for on-prem to get a very specific cost for in and out of cluster costs. Another view here for the last 30 days by service daily across my assets, whether they're EC2, whether they are, again, inside Kubernetes or outside of Kubernetes. And then finally, you can see back to cost allocation, the cumulative costs the last 30 days by namespace, whatever context you want to view cost. So cost allocation is key to Kubecost. We went through just the allocation perspective, but you can see that's just the beginning of a good, better, best approach to significant Kubernetes shops driving, allocation, savings, and optimizations for Kubernetes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and next we have Rich Hoyer from Sada. Rich, are you unmuted?
Yes, I'm here. Good to meet you. Do you want me to share or you want to draw the slides, Steve? Either way is fine.
I can draw the slides. Just tell me when you want to.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, go ahead. The next slide. Okay, so Sada is completely different, I think, at some level than all the other vendors that you've heard here, because we are not a tool. If you're not familiar with Sada, we're actually a GCP reseller. So we provide a whole set of consulting services that go along with being a GCP customer. I lead the FinOps team here at Sada. We got 4 people working with me, so we're a team of 5, and we are totally multi-cloud in the consulting that we do around FinOps. So essentially, our focus in the consulting is basically 2 different sort of tiers. The first is that we come into our clients and help them sort of clean up whatever's going on today. So if they have a lot of cost overruns, or if they're having really serious problems with reporting and allocations, we're going to come in and help them to sort of clean up things, get operations going right. We're there to enable their team, and then also once the cleanup is done, we're there to help them establish a team that will sustain best practices on an ongoing basis. So that's just a wide overview of kind of what Sada is as it relates to FinOps. So next slide, please. This is how we think about the discipline of FinOps. I know the topic here is really around the allocations of cost. And what I like about the focus today is that we believe that this is absolutely foundational to everything else that our clients do as it relates to FinOps. So our take is that you begin with visibility and reporting, and that means getting the allocations done correctly. So ideally, we try to help our clients understand that the first thing we want to do, the first KPI, is how can we get the client to a position where ideally every dollar of spend is traceable to a human that was accountable for having generated it. That's sort of the first KPI that we drive toward. And that's, of course, a challenge that many of you deal with today. The approach that we take to doing that, first of all, is we are really big believers in using relational databases to sort of triage what's going on. So if today a client is in a situation where they struggle to allocate costs, what we've found is a lot of the times when you use the billing export as opposed to using the vendor's console or using something like the invoice, is the billing exports are really where we start. And getting that data into a database like BigQuery is the first stage. And the reason is a lot of times the way you can solve allocation challenges will begin with combining up disparate data sets. So a lot of times what we find is this billing data and then this other data somewhere else, where if you combine it up with the billing data, you can begin to allocate costs in the data warehouse. Now, we don't want to keep the client there the whole time. This is a way to triage the situation. So a great example would be if you take a different data set, like there's infrastructure labels or tags, you marry that up with the billing data, now you can get the allocation that you need in the data warehouse. And the next phase of that is how do we remediate the billing data? So concretely, if you're looking at something like Kubernetes, it might be that we figure out the allocations in the data warehouse, and then we say, okay, how would, for example, renaming namespaces solve this in the billing data so that they have visibility moving forward? So that's kind of how we think about this. We're a big fan of tools. Some of the vendors that are here presenting today for visibility, the data warehouse is where you start, get it triaged, get the reporting the way you need it, and then you customize those tools so that people have an ongoing visibility in the billing data. All right, thanks.
Thanks very much. Right, we're data analysis and Showback. Rob is going to give us the definition.
Yes, thank you. That was great, great input from all the companies that are supporting cost allocation. Super important to be able to allocate your costs out, but everyone, one of our key FinOps principles is everyone takes ownership for their cloud usage. And how can you take ownership unless you've got access to see that data on a regular basis? And that is what data analysis and Showback as a capability is about. It's about using that cost allocation framework that you define, and then creating the Showback reporting and giving all of your engineering and product teams the ability to go in and do the data analysis they need to make good decisions as they go through. And so we're going to hear from one vendor in this place and a few more in our breakouts. And I'd like to introduce Candace. Also, I'll point out she is a FinOps Pro candidate, and I'm very excited to hear from her.
Thank you very much. I can't share my screen because you're sharing.
Oh, sorry. That's my fault. Go for it.
All right, you guys should be able to see my screen now. Great. Yep. Okay, thank you. My name is Candace Dubois, and I'm a FinOps senior consultant here at SoftwareOne. We're going to go more down demonstrating a capability today because at SoftwareOne, our goal is to give our customers the information they need to move their FinOps practice to their desired level of maturity. So for us, FinOps isn't necessarily about a tool, but about sharing the knowledge and helping you build your practice. I chose to address a challenge for the next few minutes that I had struggled with in the past prior to joining SoftwareOne, which is blending or transitioning your on-premise Showback with your cloud spend. So data analysis Showback is fundamental if you want to mature to a chargeback model. And one of the challenging areas is when you want to transition or add in your cloud spend to your on-premise model. Challenges like comparing and benchmarking costs between on-prem and cloud, it can be confusing because things aren't necessarily like for like. Plus, business units or customers may not understand how to truly compare the costs that you're showing them because of new product names, different categories, different groupings, things like that. So to start the process of blending your Showback, your charges should be grouped at the highest level of your Showback hierarchy, like application, for example. By showing back on-prem and cloud spend rolled up to an application, this opens the door to acclimating your customers to the new spend and allows for easy side-by-side comparison. Even if your on-prem Showback is more mature and granular, keep it simple at this point, because the purpose is you just want to introduce cloud spend into the Showback equation. Then you can start working your way down the cost pipeline to get to the Showback categories that make sense for your organization, even if you have to standardize your naming conventions. This will help them make it a little more consumable when we talk about, comparing like to like things. Then you can map your cloud products to categories that match your on-prem Showbacks, and then group them to match the like configurations. This top-down approach will make the data analysis by your customers easier to understand and allows you to mature your model in gradual steps. So how do we do it? Along with all the other domains, we can help you strengthen your data analysis in Showback. We have a couple different approaches that you see here. Our diagnostic starter pack will give you a baseline assessment of your current FinOps state with actionable recommendations for standing up or growing your practice. Our FinOps Essentials helps you reach your FinOps goals with our lightly managed service. And we do have an in-house tool, PureCloud, but it can be the tool of your choice that we'll also help with. And our fully managed service includes custom-made workshops with customer-driven agendas that will help you realize the value of your cloud investments at any phase of your journey. So I just want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you. That's great. And now we're going to move across to forecasting and budget management with Ben.
Yeah, so forecasting and budget management used to be arguably a straightforward task when you were doing your quarterly purchase run rates on-prem. But now when we're spending money by the second or even millisecond in some cases, this has become quite an art and a science to tell the future and be able to predict your spending in the coming months. We're seeing crawl, walk, and run levels of maturity going from budget versus actual to 20%, 10%, under 5%. This is a challenge. So to take us through how to handle that challenge, we've got Jessica Rodek from Accenture.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, should be able to see my screen. So good morning, I am Jessica Rodek with Accenture, and I've been helping clients migrate to cloud and unlock the full potential of cloud through FinOps for the last 14 years. Today, I'm going to walk you through a journey for one of our Accenture clients and break down the Accenture roadmap that we leverage to predicting the future cloud spend for our client. So recently, we've been working with a large state government client who was experiencing challenges of forecasting cloud costs. For those of you that may not be familiar with public sector requirements, firms must submit cloud budgets to the US government 2 years in advance. So as you can imagine, this compounds the challenges in estimating costs for dynamic cloud environments. Prior to our client embarking on this journey with us, budgets were estimated using static forecasting or taking annual cost divided by 12 for monthly costs at an account level. So this actually ended up resulting in a huge variance between forecasted spend and actual spend. So the first step in our client's journey was to create the vision. We worked with our client to understand their current state, and then we designed and standardized their future state budgeting and forecasting processes. We worked with them to select a tool, design the governance and ways of working across technical, business, finance, and procurement teams. During this step, we also worked with our client to standardize a tagging strategy. Next, we rolled up our sleeves and we built the future with our client. We worked alongside and we collaborated with 48 accounts and 15 owners across technical, business, finance, and procurement teams to build the forecast and implement the new process. This included analyzing current application usage, accounting for future business requirements, planned purchases, potential discounts. And then we also had to capture additional spend drivers. And we also worked with them to fully implement the tagging strategy so that we could have visibility and accountability. So once the new process was built, the forecast was built and implemented, the individual and aggregate budgets were posted at logical business organization levels. Continuous tracking of actual versus budgeted and in-depth various analysis were performed. By collaborating across teams, we were able to identify reasons for variances, such as unplanned testing activities that led to higher AWS Connect costs. And we were able to proactively identify changes that would result in impacts to the forecast, such as deferring standing up a new environment. So as we continue to operate and collaborate with our client, we were providing monthly tracking of the forecast and processes against defined business metrics and KPIs. We also identified and implemented ongoing improvements to mature the forecasting capability across the organization. So as a result, our client is now predicting the future of their cloud spend with accuracy. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. And next, we're moving on to managing anomalies. Rob is going to give some definition for that.
Thanks. So this is one of the great challenges of cloud use is we're now, as we look to say in the training class, having to manage anomalies because nobody in the data center world ever snuck into our data center over the weekend and installed 5,000 new computers that we have to pay for. But that sort of thing happens in the cloud all the time. So we really want to be able to see and then manage those anomalies as they pop up. We want to be able to spot them as near real time as we can, and then take steps to actively manage those so that we're on top of our spend and we're not waiting for the cloud bill to come in at the end of the month. And here are a few of our vendors who are going to be talking about how they do that, how they support that. The first will be Lucas from CloudHealth by VMware.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening in. So sharing my screen. So I'm here to talk about our newest feature called anomaly detection in CloudHealth. And this is something we're really excited we brought to market. We have support for all three clouds, AWS, Azure, and GCP. And we're leveraging the cost billing files from the cloud provider, which we're collecting multiple times a day. So this is something that you're going to be able to be proactively alerted on multiple times a day. And we're going to help move you through this journey that we like to call the detect, identify, and remediate. And I'm going to walk through this demo aligned with how we would approach these problems. So first, we have the anomaly detection feature. We're going to be doing checks on things like time period, daily, weekly, monthly, service changes, account changes, some of the pretty standard categorization dimensions you'd expect. But where it gets really interesting is the ability to train our formula. So we have 5 different algorithms running, one of which is a dampening one. And you have the ability for each identification to then submit feedback to help train it and say, yes, this was an anomaly, no, it wasn't, to help as we learn and improve this formula. And this is also really powerful when you think about our customer base and being able to leverage the wide customers that we have and being able to improve that formula in a multi-cloud way. So this is our first landing page. If I want to then drill into potentially an anomaly, maybe I'll want to first see what are some ones that are a little bit more impactful. So 1,000, let's do maybe last 30 days. Here's a huge example of one, 313,000. So if I want to drill into that now to see, we're moving now from our detect to identify, what are the triggers to increasing this? So I can click into this here. This looks all right. Yeah, we've had pretty consistent change. It looks like there were a couple of days where it jumped from 3. But if I now look at the last 90 days, wow, that is an example of an anomaly. So looking at the trends, and then you can then take it to the next step and then drill into the actual view root cause. And I'm going to just go that. This is what that looks like. And you can then start to see the specific line items in different services that made up that specific charge. Once you've done that, then the next step that you'll want to go is to actually remediate. So you'll do that through a policy. And if we think about the crawl, walk, run, this is really where we can start to help our customers to move along that maturity journey, where you'll create a policy condition to be able to alert you on anomalies that are over a certain amount. Maybe you want to create some sort of threshold. This is something you'll be able to start to figure out after using the tool, kind of flipping through. This is that detect, trying to understand what your infrastructure looks like. And then you'll be able to update this policy to be able to start taking action. And some of the things that we hear customers wanting to do potentially are just notifying people. So, hey, you broke the rules, might want to look into this. Or maybe you want to start actually taking action. So doing something and doing a lookup on what is the IAM role being used to take this action and then shutting that down. Maybe in GCP, because we don't have specific resource information in the export, you'll want to shut down billing for a specific project. So this is an area that we're looking to help move our customers along that journey to not just get alerts, but to actually allow them to take their hands off the wheel and have the environment managed themselves. Yeah. And shout out, if you want to go talk about this more, we have a CloudHealth Slack channel. Would love to hear you in there.
Thank you very much. Okay, next on managing anomalies is Amitai from Google Cloud. I've got slides for you. Ready?
Perfect. I'll let you run. Yeah. So hi, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces. My name is Amitai. I'm a product manager here at Google Cloud. And continuing on the manage anomalies, I want to talk about something we just released literally a couple of weeks ago in preview, which we call Cost Insights. And we took a slightly different approach with this. The first one is we're basing our anomalies on forecasted data. So as Lucas just showed with CloudHealth, like a great way to show anomalies usually was, let's look at your historic costs. Let's figure it out. You know, you usually spend $100 a day. Today you spend 120. That's an anomaly. What we decided to do is leverage the feature that we have around forecast, where we try to look at where we expect you to be. So it doesn't necessarily mean what you spent in the past. Maybe you have discounts or things happening, or if you have interesting patterns, like example, you know, every Saturday you have way higher traffic. And so what we do with our anomalies is we say, we expected you to spend today $100. Yesterday you spent, you know, 150, and you're actually spending 120. So you're spending more than what we forecasted you, even though it's lower than what you spent yesterday. We'll kind of alert you. The second aspect to this that we're looking at is kind of an API first approach. So you'll find this actually under the recommender service as an insight. So it's just another insight type. And one of the main reasons was because a lot of you already use that. So we didn't want to create yet another platform, yet another API, yet another way. And the other is that whether you want to build your own dashboarding, or for example, you know, the ISVs that we work with want to take this information and then build another layer of information or another view, we want to enable you to have that programmatic access to things. The other thing is integrations. So you can imagine that if you get a high severity cost insight from us, maybe you want to integrate this into ServiceNow or your ticketing service and wake up someone in the middle of the night, versus if it's a low severity anomaly, that can wait for business hours. The other thing is you can export all this data to BigQuery and obviously do a lot of analysis there. And we do give you deep links to our console so that, you know, you can kind of go and see what attributed to that anomaly. And I would remiss if I wouldn't say that this community at large really helped us design this. We've gone through several iterations and conversations, and, you know, specific shout out to Sky UK and Nathan, you know, here in the Slack channel has been great. So please, you know, continue with that and give us feedback. Next slide. The other thing is around the cost allocation for GKE, so Kubernetes Engine. That also just came out about 3 weeks ago. The cool thing about this is you don't need an additional agent. There's no substantial perf impact. It was a big demand from our customer base, you know, to understand, you know, exactly what's happening in that kind of black box. And then next slide. Last but not least, budgeting area. I heard this a lot at FinOps X, even though we've released this a while ago, people just weren't aware that we actually have automated cost control. So you don't just set a budget and get an email, for example. You can actually, you know, register pub sub, run cloud functions. Next slide, please. And we actually have a lot of examples online. So for example, when this happens, email these people, notify my Slack, actually, cap my billing so that I don't have additional expenses. With that, thank you very much for the stage, and please continue giving feedback.
Thanks, Amitai. Right, managing commitment-based discounts. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So once we've sort of optimized our cloud platform to a certain extent, and we have a good, clear understanding of what our usage ought to be, it's a good idea to sort of get some commitment in against that and maximize the value we get from every dollar we spend on that environment. So various different cloud providers will allow you to commit against your usage, either by a spend commitment or resource-based commitment or whatever. But ultimately, this comes down to having the confidence to say that resource or that service is definitely where it should be and what it should be. And I'm going to now maximize my investment on that environment by getting a commitment. So there are some good ways to deal with that. And to take us through that, let's go over to Spot. And we've got Joanne and Ben. Spot by NetApp, sorry.
Hopefully Joanne's going to be there.
Hold on.
Yes, you're there. I can see you.
Great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Joanne Godfrey. I'm the product manager for Spot by NetApp. So for our showcase, we are focusing on the managing commitment-based discounts track and specifically our Spot Eco product. But we did want to start by mentioning that Spot by NetApp, has a full portfolio of products that drive the FinOps lifecycle, starting with visibility. And we make visibility useful, meaningful, consistent, and transparent. We give different stakeholders access to analyze data in ways that allow everyone to get on the same page on how resources are being used and how costs are associated with those resources. So we provide a unified place where you can gain a single source of truth on FinOps with the right lens for each person, team, business unit, etc. Governance is obviously a key part of FinOps in our portfolio, providing the tools to help make sure that we all work within a framework that is visible, consistent, transparent, and reportable. With our automation solutions, we aim to remove tasks from overburdened teams. For example, we use predefined policies and intelligent analytics to deliver cost and risk-based provisioning and right-sizing of containers and non-containerized workloads, resources, and utilization thresholds. Often we find that organizations optimize reactively, usually after the sudden realizations that costs don't align with budget. We aim to optimize proactively, helping our customers continuously and consistently manage their overall commitment purchasing strategy in a way that doesn't slow down execution. And speaking of optimization, there are two aspects of optimization. There are two aspects of optimizations as they relate to FinOps: optimizing resources and optimizing the unit cost of the cloud. So with Spot Eco, FinOps teams benefit from managed RI capacity, reduced financial lock-in, and the best RI marketplace deals. Spot Eco is unique in that it combines both automation and intelligent market analysis. Eco constantly compares what the market bears to your ever-changing needs and to your custom strategy. So no customer wants the same thing, and Spot Eco adapts to your unique situation. And now Ben Swoboda, the product manager for Eco, is going to show you. Ben?
Yep, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Bingo. We try to make it so that when a customer wants to get signed up, it only takes about 5 minutes for us to gain access to their billing file using CloudFormation template on AWS, for example. Once they're good to go, then we try to manage it based upon the strategy that Joanna mentioned, so that really it's just about justifying what they see here in the dashboard. We're managing all this for them. We're showing them the savings over time, broken down by a variety of different areas of granularity, where they're getting the savings from. And hopefully we're showing them that because we're leveraging the RI marketplace to their benefit, their commitment is reducing over time rather than staying static. We're also showing them this story really quick, which is really what their savings is, the difference between the ongoing commitments and their uncovered spend and their savings over time. We offer all the different types of granularity that they might expect to offer. So it's all in one place rather than going hunting for everything within their environment from the provider themselves. Something that we do a little bit different is show the actual usage of the commitments that we're providing, rather than the commitment, rather than the savings itself, but what portions are used and where are they located, in what regions and with whatever services that we have available or that are out there. Now, if the customer is looking for something different, we offer reports capabilities, which can dig a little bit deeper for their particular customers, and a variety of different workflows and reports to provide whatever level of granularity fits into their business processes. That is basically it.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Ben.
Welcome.
And next up, we have Ternary. We have Mac and Ken. Are you ready? I'm hoping you're ready. I've seen Mac.
I am ready. Ken, are you going to lead in, or do you want me to take this?
Nope, you go for it.
Okay, here we go. So a little bit about Ternary to start off. We are able to see my screen.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. A little bit about us. We are focused on the GCP lane. That when we formed the company, we saw that there was an open lane for us in the GCP space. It's one of the underserved clouds. So we operate in GCP. We are using BigQuery as our backend. We do currently take in GCP and AWS billing data, lots of customers and lots of spend, but that's enough about that. I do want to focus in on, I know the chapter that we're in terms of the vendor showcase right now is around committed use discount. So I'll start there, but I do want to talk about some of the visibility we provide around that as well. So when we're talking about commitment planning, first thing we want to bring in is that if there is currently a commitment in place, we will discover that. We'll know what the commitment level for that particular usage is, and we'll be able to build off of that. So in this case, I have the use in this region. In this case, it's North America. N1 usage, pretty consistent, 1,400 cores, 3 terabytes of memory, no commitments in place currently. What Ternary is really good at helping individuals do is to understand where those commitments might lie. So as you think about how are we going to manage this as a business, there might be lots of other commitments around different business functions. We have to put money into these different projects. How much do we want to put into the cloud at all? And then where are the savings available for us? Is this something we want to start a 3-year term discussion with the vendor around, or just a 1 year? So we have the capability of understanding where that commitment should be when it gets overcommitted, and allow that scenario to be played out, and we'll be able to do that across different families. So oftentimes what we find with our clients is that, in this case, maybe they're declining in their use of N1 over time, so they really don't want to make much of a commitment on that. But if they look to the N2s, which are the family they're moving into, they actually want to take a much more aggressive stand in making commitments around that. And we can surface not only the savings here, the monthly savings, but we can also project those over time. And in this case, if we know for a fact we're going to be increasing our usage, we may even go further than the current measured data indicates, because we know that's where our architecture is taking us. So starting from commitments, really being able to scenario plan that out, understanding where the savings are, understanding across families. If you wanted to do project by project planning, you can do that as well. We can certainly help with that. Do you want to talk about 2 other things while I have the time here? Kubernetes, we've heard about it several times here. Very intractable problem for a lot of clients. Being able to understand the capacity of your Kubernetes usage, being able to understand overcommitments, understanding the architecture of the application. So in this case, if I want to find out what's my most expensive cluster, the one that's got the least utilization, I want to find out what's currently deployed out there. I can zoom in on that data. This is coming from native monitoring, where there's no agent being deployed from Ternary to get this information. We're just pulling information directly from the APIs. And I can say, in this case, if that's my most expensive cluster, what is my namespace? What's my most wasteful workload? And I can zoom in and find out details about that. When I do have a situation where I found the offending clusters or workloads, now we can talk about optimizations. Go find those situations where I have overbuilt things. I've committed too much memory, too much CPU. I want to build a task around cleaning that up. We have the recommendations here. We also have the ability to track. Has that been assigned to somebody? When did it go into their inbound queue? Have they acted on it? These are all steps that we can put into place. We also have budgeting that comes along with this. So you can say, I want to build budgets around those projects. In this case, I'm looking at 140K spend. And I can also build notifications around when we start to exceed budgets, so that I can have something dropping into my inbox saying, hey, look, it's the 20th of the month and you're 90% of your budget. Probably want to do something about that. So full feature cost allocation, visualization all the way through the product, but also really advanced commitment use tracking and planning, and being able to make most use of the funds you're putting into the cloud. And I'm at time.
Thank you,
So
Mac.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Perfect timing. Crossing slightly over into different capabilities there, but thank you. Okay. Thank you to all the speakers. That was a lot of information within a short space of time, but we have plenty more to come. We are heading to breakouts. So we're going to keep cracking on, and we're going to move on to Roy from Finout. Are you there, Roy? Yes.
Steve, how are you? Thank you guys for staying in the main room for Showback. So my name is Roy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Finout. Finout is one of the newest vendors here in the FinOps Foundation. Essentially what Finout is we're designed to get all usage-based price costs throughout your spending. So both cloud providers, but also solutions like Snowflake and Datadog and Mongo and Circle CI and all of that, to bring everything into one platform, but for real, right? To get everything to cross-correlate to one another and to start and create custom cost allocation rules. And I'll explain what I mean. So this is Finout, right? So Finout has everything within 1 megabill. So just as an example of what we can do. So we can create filters that, I'm filtering now on AWS, but also on Kubernetes specific namespaces. And when I'm doing that, I can start to break down the cost based on everything that I'm currently looking at. So let's just pick Kubernetes deployment for that sake. So we can take down the cost, break it down by services. You can analyze by everything, you can filter by everything is cross-correlating to one another. And the reason that this is very important is to create very elaborate cost allocation rules. So Finout offers a solution that we call virtual tags. So virtual tag, what it is, so unlike other vendors, we can select on anything that we see. So it can be taggable and untaggable resources throughout all cloud providers to create custom cost allocation rules that span across multiple cloud providers and Kubernetes and Snowflake and GCP and AWS. And we don't discriminate based on cloud provider. So you can do things like, create Showback for your team. So an entire AWS EKS cluster, AWS account, a query from Snowflake, label from Kubernetes, and a label component from GCP, and assign it with the application team. And you can create as many rules as you want, create, custom and or relationship between them, and have it both by specific selectors and contained. So you basically can create whatever you want, and you can even use virtual tags in order to create different virtual tags. So you can inherit from other virtual tags in order to break down the rules. So instead of just define those rules over and over and over again, you can create one virtual tag that says teams, for example, and then inherit that from the group virtual tag that can assign multiple teams into one group and create those custom cost allocations, and even select what happened if no rule matched, and you can even inherit from different rule for that matter. You can use those filters in order to create comprehensive reports and dashboards throughout the Finout system, and use global filters to filter down the cost based on what's happening. So we can change the entire view now to create the cost allocation for the application team, for example. And those visualizations are, super customizable. So unlike other solutions, it's very Grafana-like experience. So I can click the edit widget here. I can select a different type of visualization, and I can even assign and create it a unit economic and create a specific metric in order to break down the cost based on what's really happening. I can save it as scheduled reports, send it, in whatever interval that I want. The system is super responsive, very fast, and we can create really the custom cost allocations that you want, send it every day for the specific development teams based on specific filters, create just one custom dashboards that is global for everything. To top it all, everything that is live in Finout can be also live in Datadog. So this is Datadog visualization, this is Finout, right? So for creating real Showback rules, we want to get engineers to take actions, and engineers are already living within their Datadog environments. And the way that you can see utilization alongside cost to have everything in one platform gives Showback a real true meaning, because engineers can actually take actions and think of cost as if think of other metrics, right? So you're deploying new code, you're checking your latency, you're checking your error rates. Why not checking your cost as well? And you can do it without even thinking about what is your cost, what is not your cost, or which cloud provider are you using.
I'm sorry, Roy, we're at time. Thank you very much. We're just going to hop across to Revology and Jan. Are you there?
Hi, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you're able to. Go for it.
Excellent. Hello, everyone. My name is Jan Sekowicz. I'm from Revology. We are a Google Cloud Premium partner and AWS Advanced Tier Services partner, providing transformational professional services and managed services to our customers. When I see all the FinOps tools here, I always ask myself, is it enough? Because for the companies who want to successfully practice FinOps, the FinOps must become a habit. We understand that the effective habits can only be achieved when all three dimensions are met. You have a knowledge, skills, and a desire for the FinOps, of course. And this is why we focus on technology, processes, and mainly people while adopting a FinOps in the companies. We use the change management practice to excite, enable, expand, and embed the FinOps capabilities in the whole customer enterprise, just with all these everywhere, because everybody is like responsible for the cloud bill in the company. Each adoption phase we are running within the change management is run as an actionable project with a strong emphasis on building the right habits in the team. And for the selected chunks of the projects, we designed the concept of FinOps sprint. This is just a 1 week interactive journey with the participants. What we did, we just took the design sprints and those principles and we reframed them for the FinOps practice. On this example, you can see just the example of how of one particular sprint for the cost allocation and the showbacks we run with the teams while, let's say, doing the adoption. Normally on Mondays, we start with setting the objectives. Next day, we crunch the data in whatever tool the customer already have or we, let's say, use. On Wednesday, we allocate costs. Normally what we do, we set the tagging strategy or the taxonomy and do the allocation for them. On Thursday, we prototype the reports for the particular, let's say, end users or the targeted users. And on Friday, we test the reports. We do just the examination if the reports is really fine. And we can do this in iterations. As a result, we enable companies to run FinOps iterations very, let's say, smoothly and efficiently. So where we play, we do the transformation of professional services and we employ the change management principles while enabling the FinOps in the companies. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move next to, sorry, the screen share takes so long. Oracle Cloud, Aditya.
Thank you. Can I please share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Screen number 2. Sure, you're all seeing the correct screen. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Aditya from Oracle Cloud. I'm the product manager for cost analysis space. Today, we'll look at a few native capabilities within Oracle Cloud that you can use to practice FinOps. This is the basic dashboard. Here, you can see all the different types of charts that you can create and basic capabilities that I'm going to show you here. So this is the time-based cost report that you can see over time how much each of your different services are costing. We have, if I can change my slide, we have different kinds of filters and grouping dimensions to look at your cost in different ways. You can create all of the charts, and you can also create non-time-based charts to look at costs maybe for each compartment, how much each of the services are costing. You have both, all of this can be saved so that you can come back and look at the reports on a daily, monthly, or regular basis whenever your cadence is. And both of the charts as well as the tables that you have can be exported into CSV files or PDFs that you can share and show back to your teams that need to look at how costs are trending. We also have native dashboarding capabilities within the console, so you can look at cost at different dimensions at once, and then you can sort, search, and filter in different ways as well. All of this is native to the console. The next part is cost and usage reports. You can create, like, we deliver cost CSV files every 6 hours. With per resource per hour breakdowns of cost, and you can view all kinds of metadata along with this data. And of course, just like any other CSV file, you can import all of these files into data warehousing solutions, and then you can run SQL queries on top of them to get insights, as well as connect any visualization tool of your choice to view in-depth, even further detailed dashboards, which of course you can consolidate multi-cloud costs into the same visualization tool as well. Today we just saw like cost analysis and Showback capabilities that are native to the console, but we also have capabilities across the different FinOps functions. Happy to chat about any of them. Please feel free to reach out to us on Slack. We have on the Oracle Cloud OCI Slack channel within the FinOps workspace, and happy to learn and help you all practice FinOps in any way possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next up, we have James Harrison and Tom McGregor. I think there's a kind of, they're sharing a bit. Are you there? Hopefully.
Hello, Steve. Can you hear me?
Tom, there we go. Perfect.
Okay.
Take it away.
Wonderful. Let me just share my screen. Can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Tom McGregor. I'm from CloudStratex. We're a UK-based client-side IT consultancy that specializes in helping our customers achieve self-sufficiency in IT management. Our FinOps practice has been extremely successful in incubating FinOps teams and accelerating maturity with our broad set of enterprise clients. And I'm here today to talk about how we help our clients with the data analysis and Showback capability of FinOps, and more specifically, how a well-designed data model fundamentally underpins this, and for that matter, most of the other capabilities. So what is your data model when it comes to FinOps? It's a question we ask our questions, and it's generally, we ask our clients, and it's generally not an easy question to answer. Excuse me, the slide is not, there we go. We think about it as how you map your cloud spend to your organization's processes, management, and most importantly, people. There are normally lots of data sets available in an IT organization, but selecting the ones that will drive value and FinOps maturity can be tricky. Traditional IT was able to get away with playing a bit fast and loose with some of these types of data, but in the cloud, issues with accuracy, completeness, and granularity are often a deal breaker. A common example is your CMDB. Rarely do we find client CMDBs are of sufficient quality to be relied upon for the data model supporting FinOps. So how to derive value from data is probably the most important question, but there'll also be a whole host of other activities needed, such as integrating disparate data sets and maintaining data hygiene. Now, I know I've painted a bit of a bleak picture, but despite all of these challenges, a well-designed and communicated data model will help reap huge benefits in terms of the effectiveness of your FinOps capability. And examples of these are easy, consistent data analysis and Showback capability that's insightful and defendable, ability to extract effective KPIs from your data that the whole org can buy into, engage stakeholders, so using data to create targeted communications that really capture the attention and address the needs of all the FinOps personas. And detailed actionable insights so that cloud and application teams can execute on. So how CloudStratex helps with this is we've got an approach, a structured approach that's part of our incubation package that helps our clients to get to the optimal data model for right now and also a roadmap to evolve into. So we start off by assessing the current state, what useful data sets are available. Are they complete, accurate, granular? There is no point in using a data set that cannot be relied upon. We then design the initial data model and the future state model. So the initial model the purpose of the initial model is to maximize the value that FinOps can provide using the data available right now. The mantra here is don't let perfection get in the way of delivering immediate value. It will be much easier to perfect your model once everyone has seen what you can do with the imperfect model. The future state is all about the art of the possible. What data will your organization need to get to FinOps run maturity, and how do you get there? We then look at integrating the data model once we've settled on what the data models are going to be. So building out the tools, data analysis, reports, processes, and capabilities that are really going to drive value. And it's important to note here that a well-executed data model will derive maximum value from your tools. And finally, there's the roadmap. So that's establishing a common future state that lays the foundations for true innovation and maturity. So in summary, data model is really important. If what I've talked about to you today chimes with you, please look up CloudStratex on Slack. James and I are always happy to talk. Thank you very much.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Next, we have Tim Siegel from PBG. Tim, are you?
I am. Yep, I'm here. Let me just share my screen.
Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Let me.
Oh, it's not loading.
It's not loading. Let me.
No, this is the risk with screen share.
Yeah, you're always running into one of these. Let me see here.
Yes. Oh, it's all zoomed in.
Oh, goodness gracious. What have I done here?
Do you want to freestyle, or should we come back to you?
Yeah, let me I think I have it now here.
Ah, there you go. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. Apologies, Steve. I'll make up the 30 seconds I spent on that one there. So PBG Consulting, we're a consulting firm, obviously not a tool, and we provide program implementation, data transformation, and strategic consulting to the federal government clients. And so we're proud to be one of the first companies to specifically provide FinOps service to the US federal government. Many federal agencies are just at the beginning of their cloud-first strategy. And as you know, having a FinOps team is incredibly important to do that. And so PBG, we're also part of the federal government working group here at the foundation. Myself and Melvin Brown from the OPM are the co-chairs of that Slack channel and working group. So if you have tools or clients that are interested in learning more about how we do FinOps in the federal government, I'd encourage you to join that Slack channel with us. We just drafted the first draft, if you will, of the public sector FinOps playbook, which is now on the website. And that essentially defines a lot of what the differences are between how FinOps is done in the federal government versus how it's done in the commercial world. And there are specialty plays that we'll be drafting to sort of outline the differences between things like budgeting and forecasting. As one of the premier partners in Accenture earlier pointed out, that forecasting and budgeting in the federal government can be very different from how things are done in the commercial world. And so RI purchases, budgeting and forecasting, all those things can be very, very different. And so we're going to be working hard with our federal government clients to define those things and let you know how they're going to be different from the commercial world. And so the federal government agencies may have several funding sources tied to their vendor cloud agreements. And the PBG FinOps team works hard to track those funding sources to ensure budget funding compliance via Showback and detailed data analysis reports. And so to accomplish this, we worked with our engineering team to ensure that funding sources are tied directly to subscription creation in Azure to make for easier tracking and reporting. We do monthly reports to show actual costs and burn down of funded reports. funded amounts, excuse me. And so if there are budget overruns, right, we can notify our contracting officers and our executives for corrective action to address those forecasted budget amounts. And as I said here, kind of tongue in cheek, Congress doesn't care that you got a surprise Azure invoice, right? And so it's important that we ensure that we have Showback and data analysis reports that show where we are with respect to that funding. This is I wasn't able to obviously do screenshots of some of the Azure reports that we pull from the portal. So a lot of the contracting officers in the federal government prefer Excel to some of my reports that we pull from our vendor tools. And so as you can see here, a sample report in the yellow, we've got a $2 million funded amount for our contract year. We input in the green the actuals for each month and then show 3 months into this year, we're at 72% funding of our ELA for Microsoft after 1 quarter. So we're about 3% variance from that 1 quarter of funding amount. Below that, in the second area, you'll see we have 3 funding sources. One is shared infrastructure for 800 grand. We've got a funding source that's a BU only funding for 700 grand. And then we've got security funding for 500. And so shared infrastructure like ExpressRoute, we've got security funding for logging and Sentinel and things like that. And then I point out here that we're at about 50% funding expenditures for shared infrastructure costs. And so that's an area where we would address with our networking team to see how we can cut back on the ExpressRoute charges. And then finally, we did do some shared security cost analysis. Logging can be a big concern in the federal government. There's a lot of mandates that come down that maybe commercial firms aren't required to have with respect to logging. And so you'll see here that we had an increasing amount of logging versus Sentinel and Azure Firewall in our spend rate. And so we're going to be working with our security teams to say, hey, what can we do about decreasing our logging spend in our non-prod environments, things like that.
I'm sorry, team, we're at time.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. I'm good.
Thank you. And next up is Keith from Envisor. Are you there, Keith?
I am here.
Fantastic.
On the screen share. Okay, thank you. So Keith Knowles with Envisor. Just wanted to do a quick intro on the company here. What we do, we have 2 products, Envisor Cloud Control, which is monitoring and automation. It's all about real-time cost monitoring, alerting, anomaly detection. And then what we're really here to talk about today is the Envisor Cloud Analytics, which is a pre-built cloud-based data warehouse for FinOps. We're multi-cloud, we're extensible, so you can bring your own data, you can bring spreadsheets in, you can bring in additional data sources. We're based on Power BI. So rather than building our own interface for this, we took a lead from what a lot of our customers and prospects have been telling us, and that is we went with the Power BI from an interface perspective. So with that, you're going to get, again, that extensible cloud-based data warehouse, multi-cloud data sources. So we handle all of the data ingestion and normalization for you. We're bringing data in 5-minute intervals. So we're bringing in both cost and performance. So obviously some of the cost data is not going to be in 5 minutes, but we are projecting that out and building that out based on utilization and usage data. You can extend those data sources. We can bring in additional data sources. We do provide the services for that as well, or you can do it on your own. So you can do things as simple as bringing in a spreadsheet for a cost or chart of accounts or allocation type of a table and use those in calculations. You can create your own visualizations with the Power BI interface and couple all of that to provide both your custom Showback type tools. So with that, going a little bit more about the actual product itself, we do provide a number of pre-built dashboards within the Power BI environment, starting with a general overview. These can be customized again to bring in additional data or show things the way you want to so that you're comfortable within your environment. You do have the different types of things that you'd expect, tags, different resource types, ability to add different slicers for those of you familiar with Power BI. You can shape these things. You can drill into the various products if you want to, various items. You can see a specific resource. So the power that you'd expect with coming from a Power BI type of interface, it's very robust. It allows you to do some detailed analysis that you wouldn't necessarily see in a typical structured interface. So Provide again out-of-box dashboards here for different types of use from the general overview, different types of spend analysis. So these visualizations again can be customized. Utilization, all designed to help you try to identify both opportunities for improvement, as well as you can create your own Showback types of analysis and reports that will both highlight a combination of cost. You can bring in potential opportunities for improvement if you wanted to from a specific department perspective. You can look at different types of opportunities, again, whether it's in highlight to your different departments for when you're doing your Showback, whether you have opportunities to increase your reserved instance coverage as an example, very simple example here too. But again, all of this stuff can be customized with bringing in your own data. You can bring it in as both part of the data warehouse or very simply as a table to create your own custom chargeback or allocation type rules from a Showback perspective. And I think I'm about at time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, we're next moving on to CloudThread. Ilya, are you ready?
Hello. Let me share my screen.
Fantastic.
You can see my screen, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Ilya from Cloudthread, Cloud Cost Efficiency as a Service. So let's start with the problem Cloudthread is solving. Basically, we are really focused on enabling engineering accountability without disrupting development process. As fellow practitioners and cloud build owners know, engineering teams nowadays are mostly flying blind to infrastructure costs they incur. And that creates a lot of problems. Basically, we can't track, set meaningful KPIs, and get engineers to take action. So a lot of cloud spend is wasted as a result. Cloudthread comes in and gets the relevant cloud cost efficiency insights to the right people at the right time and through the right channels. Well, it sounds like a very kind of like nice sales speech, but what is actually behind it? Well, quite a lot is going on this slide, but the key points that you should know that Cloudthread is getting cloud billing data and combining it with different kinds of infra and app monitoring data. We have like API push capability that enables a lot of integrations. And we are able to go deep into like your logs, combine all that and generate insights around cost transparency, around efficiency, and also set reports and alerts on that and deliver that, to relevant engineering stakeholders. So let's now get to the demo and see how it works. It all starts with cost overview, which is like a standard, feature set for the tools in our domain. At the top, you can see the chart of total costs against like previous period costs, right? And it's all like very clean. So we don't have much going on here as our stakeholder is like engineering manager, right? Or engineer. So, and they prefer things to be like more streamlined. And under that total cost chart, you can see the breakdown chart where you can actually break down the total cost by various dimensions up to the resource level. And this is very handy for root cause analysis. For example, you see here we have the spike for our production account, and we can do the drill down and see what's going on here. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's like
security is important
with the demonstrations, but everything is actually very fast working, right? And let me do, for example, let's do May. Okay, this is good enough, right? Everything is super fast for us. So basically drilling into the spikes is very easy and identifying what's going on. Now, let's move to our major capability, which is unit metrics and efficiency focus. The entry point to this capability is unit metrics library, where we pre-calculate for you based on the logs and billing data, various unit metrics, right? And for example, here, right, I want to demonstrate you a unit metric, which is like ELB cost per request, right? ELB request here. And here you can see the chart with unit metric as well, what basically constitutes that numerator, ELB cost, the number of, ELBs is consistent. However, requests are a bit, more volatile. And here, if we have more of it, you can see how it looks like. So thank you so much. I think I'm on time.
Thank you. Well, perfect, because you handled that really well.
Thank you.
Okay, Grant from Vaxowave is next to screen share.
Yep, I'm here. I can do a screen share. And sharing, I hope.
Looking good.
Is it in presentation mode? No, there we go. Okay. So yeah, good day to you. You're from the southern tip of Africa. We enjoying winter at the moment. I know you guys are enjoying some summer and some extraordinary temperatures, particularly in Europe. So thanks for the time. So yeah, I tended to focus on the data analysis portion as it related to optimization for my presentation today. So not really focusing on the Showback elements. I think a lot of the guys have already spoken around the data flows. We follow a very similar type structure, obviously taking the data from the various cloud portals, merging them with the enterprise data, and again, very similar to what Keith had done at Envisor, using Power BI predominantly as our visualization tool set. But we do have Excel, tabular services and kind of SQL in the back end. So our typical approach, when working with some of our customers, it talks around using the data and looking at the kind of the quick wins. Obviously, moving to Showback and Chargeback is meaningless if the CFO and the CIO are very upset about their costs. So we typically focus on kind of those elements there and literally stop the bleeding. We then move into your traditional FinOps kind of optimization pieces. But the real cool thing that I'm going to share with you just now is we apply some innovation to the analysis, so outside of your traditional FinOps, and I'll introduce you to the concept of good and bad spend. So in the FinOps, in the FinOps Foundation, they talk around getting engineers to take action as being one of the big priorities. And what we typically do is put something called bad spend into the fray, and that kind of elicits some of the emotional things from some of the engineers around their name appearing against bad spend. So typically what you're looking at here is most of our clients have policies around what they should be snoozing, and we call that snoozable kind of spend, and that's typically your dev, ETE, and POC environments. And the middle graph kind of shows you the good spend, which is basically what the guys are snoozing out of the snoozable. So you'll see that there's an increased trend in the guys doing the snoozing, which is predominantly the cheapest way of doing optimization. And then on the right-hand side, basically you've got the neutral spend, which is basically your new workloads and maybe some SKUs that are not RI-able. So literally using some of those techniques, using the data and the analytics and our innovative stuff, obviously we've managed to save some significant amounts of money for some of our clients. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we have Sam from Stacklet, who's also going to screen share.
Hello, thank you. Let me share my screen here. At least I do it. Can you all see?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Thank you, and thank you for having me. My name is Sam. I'm in the sales engineering team at Stacklet. And I'm sure you all know, we've got a lot of thousands of brands across the globe that use Cloud Custodian, which is an open source project to stay optimized in the cloud thanks to powerful filtering capabilities and for cloud usage and performance data. Our sales Stacklet, we built Stacklet platform, which is based on Cloud Custodian, and it empowers engineering and finance teams to codify, automate, and collaborate on FinOps guardrail in a standard, easy-to-use and declarative language. Unlike other tools, remediation is a first-class citizen for us and for Cloud Custodian. So our guardrails can be enforced in real time by detection, notifications, and remediation. Stacklet platform is also integrated with Jira, Slack, and ServiceNow and others, so it meets its stakeholders where they live. What you see here are the 4 pillars that we can leverage from the FinOps Foundation capabilities. And today I'm going to focus on just the data analysis and Showback. So as soon as Stacklet is integrated with your cloud, it starts building a real-time SQL queryable asset inventory of the cloud that we call AssetDB. The data that is ingested covers over 300 services from AWS, Azure, and GCP, and it tracks the full configuration and metadata of each asset over time. So thanks to AssetDB, you can basically time travel and understand the cloud usage and at resource level granularity. So now to make sense of all the data in the context of FinOps, we also include in Stacklet a set of what we call policy packs that are dedicated to the inform, optimize, and operate phases. Those policies enrich the data stream from the asset with efficiency evaluations that identify waste, inefficient configuration, inefficient usage, and improvable cost performance ratios, and also find cost avoidance opportunities. Then if I go into one of these policies here, so you can see that the set retention here is a policy that will find every log group, for example, that has no retention set, and will actually fix it by applying a retention. The integration of Stacklet or Slack, Jira, and email, so you can notify stakeholders where they are. Now, Stacklet platform can help organization as they navigate through crawl, walk, and run phases. When you crawl phase, like here, you can exploit the highest saving opportunities based on value, effort, and risk parameters. You can segment the data by account and account groups. You can also track and enforce risk-free and low-risk remediation of wasteful spending. And you can analyze the tagging structure and inform this tagging strategy. What you can also generate are punch lists like this one, which can be prioritized through a personalized formula. And you can share them either through exporting them in Excel or CSV, or you can send them as Jira tickets, for example. Moving on to the next phase is when the organization is more mature, we can leverage every tag available in the system, such as policy tags, resource tags, not only the ones that are in the post-users report, but any tag on the system itself, also account tags, to clearly outline what is a shared effort and what is an action that can be delegated to an app owner or different stakeholders of the FinOps. The remediation can also be tracked and showed back to those teams, so you can understand who does what, and you can guide different application teams in their remediation efforts. We also include a tagging qualitative and quantitative assessments that can help you shape the tagging strategy and communicate it back to stakeholders so they can implement it. When you
Sam, I do want to jump in. We're at time. I do want to kind of like compare to other presenters. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
And we're moving on to Rich from StormForge.
Yep. Thank you, Steve.
And I've got slides for you, so okay. I can just tell me when to move forward.
That sounds good. So yeah, Rich Bentley, VP of Product Marketing with StormForge. Happy to be here today. You can go to the next slide. So I love this quote, and hopefully it resonates with some of you as well. A colleague of mine said this once, and I think it kind of gets to the challenge when we're pushing resource decisions down to a very granular level. It makes it really hard to kind of manage and control that, right? So if you go to the next slide. So this is essentially the problem that we help solve at StormForge. We use machine learning to really help engineers make smarter resource decisions to optimize applications for both performance and cost. In the context of data analysis and Showback, we're probably a little bit different than some of the other vendors. We're really more about the data analysis side, and specifically analysis of Kubernetes resource usage and performance data. We really support the domains of cloud usage optimization and real-time decision-making. So the data analysis that we do is using machine learning to analyze performance testing and observability data to really understand actual resource usage and application performance, and then to recommend optimal resource settings. Next slide. So there's a lot of reasons that there's so much cloud waste out there, but at the level of Kubernetes, it's really driven by complexity, right? When your engineers deploy a Kubernetes application, they have to make a lot of decisions about resources at a very granular level. And so there are millions of possible combinations, and every combination results in a different outcome. Outcomes being the performance and the reliability of the app, and also the cost or the resource usage of running that application. As an engineer, there's no way to make those decisions other than guessing or going through a trial and error process, which really can waste a lot of engineering time and still not get to an optimal configuration. Next slide. So StormForge approaches this with two solutions, one that works in a non-production environment and one that's used primarily in prod. The non-production solution, which is called Optimize Pro, uses a process of experimentation and analysis of data from load testing to configure resources optimally before you deploy your application. The production solution, which is called Optimize Live, is then about making real-time decisions based on observability data as production workloads change. The two solutions are part of the same platform, and the goal really is to help enterprises incorporate optimization into the DevOps lifecycle as a continuous and systematic process. Next slide, please. So this goes into a little bit more detail about the two solutions. So as I mentioned, Optimize Pro works in a non-prod environment. It uses experimentation to find the optimal configuration. It does that by going through multiple iterations of running the app, applying load to it, measuring and analyzing the outcomes, and then recommending a new configuration. The machine learning does the heavy lifting here, gradually kind of homing in on the optimal configuration over the course of several trials, maybe 50, maybe 100. Optimize Live is used primarily after you've deployed to prod, and it looks at observability data to recommend changes to CPU and memory in order to keep your application running efficiently as workloads scale up and down. Our machine learning sits on top of your observability tools. It analyzes actual resource usage trends, and then it recommends changes to CPU and memory requests and limits. So if you're familiar with the vertical pod autoscaler, this is essentially a smarter version of that. Next slide. And so last slide here, really what our solution is designed to do is empower engineers and SREs with the information they need to make smarter resource decisions in real time, driven by business objectives, to really help them take ownership of their resource usage and turn optimization into a systematic, continuous process. So thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Spot on time as well. And next we have Will from Anglepoint.
Yes, hello, and you have my slides as well. So if we
perfect, it's much easier.
The next one there, yeah. So welcome all. Anglepoint is a managed service provider, meaning that we're not a tool, so you're not going to see any screenshots or demos from our tool today. In that triangle of having the right people, processes, and technology, we bring in the people and processes. I've been doing this around IT asset management for over 10 years, specifically often in that software asset management space. You can see all of our slides, and so let's go ahead and move on. So when we come to the idea of FinOps, we certainly come from the ITAM background, because there's a lot of great principles that are here around how to manage and optimize all of the IT space. Next slide, please. And so while there's a lot of the principles that still apply from ITAM into FinOps, that there's also a different focus. Next slide, please. And if you want to talk more, there's a special interest group about this. Next slide, please. So the main focus that we want to have here is on this idea of data analysis, of making sure that we have the right data analysis that actually comes through. Are you picking your KPIs because they're what the tool does best right out of the box? Those probably aren't the best KPIs for you. I want to make sure that you have a good cloud charter. Why is it that you went into the cloud? Why do you stay in the cloud? What is the mission of your company, and how does cloud actually align to that? And then building upon those processes and the policies that reinforce why you're actually there. So that includes a lot of data analysis that goes and becomes information and becomes actual actionable intelligence. I've been working with companies for years when we find something centrally to have that hub and spoke model, to be able to talk with people, often the engineers in this case, out at the edges about how to get a more optimal environment and what can be done to ultimately make that happen and make sure that we can align the incentives of the entire company with the individual groups that we see within those. So that's the presentation I have. Looks like I'm close to time, so I'll turn it back to you.
Certainly. Thank you very much. And we are moving on to Joe from Fairwinds. Are you there, Joe?
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Steve. Go share my screen here.
Take it away.
So it's nice to meet everyone. My name is Joe Pelletier. I'm product manager over here at Fairwinds. I'll be demoing today Fairwinds Insights, which is our Kubernetes governance platform. And so for us, we're focused, entirely on containers and Kubernetes. And as part of governance, cost and resource utilization is a big part of that. So I'll show today a few use cases related to app right sizing for really aimed at that engineering and operations persona. And when it comes to app right sizing, it's really all about setting requests and limits. And so when we first got into this area, we actually created open source tools called Goldilocks, which help kind of engineers set these settings. Our Fairwinds Insight product here, though, kind of goes to the next level and helps provide sort of a multi-cluster, multi-cloud view for that platform engineer to help them understand kind of across their fleet of clusters, how on average are they, what is their average capacity? How much utilization are they currently using? And this helps them get sort of an at-a-glance view of where do they need to focus some of their optimization efforts. When you go ahead and click into a given cluster, you're going to start understanding some additional stats about utilization, as well as the cost incurred by the organization. And we do this by integrating with open source tools like Prometheus that you might already be using, as well as kind of ingesting your billing data like an AWS cost and usage report. But the next level down is really trying to help engineers with setting the correct resource requests and limits. And so the way we do this is by analyzing workloads continuously and understanding sort of, how many pods of workloads running, what are the current resource requests and limits, how are they set, and providing some information around what the most expensive workloads are and how much are they costing you today. And again, we leverage that actual billing data from the cloud provider. So if I go ahead and click on an example here, you're going to see sort of, a workload obviously running in a Kubernetes cluster. And we're going to be able to provide sort of that historical view at how the utilization of that workload's been running and what the current requests and limits are set. And so oftentimes we're finding organizations are over provisioning their resource requests and limits, usually by at least 30%. And we can provide very specific recommendations on what the memory should be or the CPU should be so that, teams can, save money and optimize their requests and limits to ultimately have better utilization. So that's one of the core kind of tenets of our platform today, is really helping with giving that visibility to different engineers and product owners around what is the cost of their workloads, what are some of the opportunities for optimizing that spend, and being able to do some things like Showback, showing the cost of work, Showback around namespace, as well as things like label, etc. And so that's kind of the main thing I wanted to share today. And by the way, we also provide things like team visibility and the ability to create kind of special rules so that you can send any sort of alerts around high memory usage or high CPU usage to the various teams so that they can get that information in the tools that they use. With that said, I'll turn it back over to Steve, and thanks for the time.
We're going to start off and we're just going to go through the same format that we did before. We've got a number of our vendor partners who are here who are going to share a little bit about what they do in this area. The first is going to be Venki from Corestack, and hopefully
yep,
you are here. Okay, good. Are you going to, do you want me to do your slides?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Good day. First of all, I think we know what cost anomaly is, but just to put it in simple terms, unpredicted variation in cloud spend, right? So you clearly need to know every time we have heard that, all of a sudden my spends are going high. Why it is going high, we don't know, right? And that's what unpredicted variation is. Now, if I have to just look at the cost, moving to the next slide, you will see that there is only two ways that you can pretty much find an anomaly, right? One, you need to have some sort of spend analysis done based on the past spend. I know in the Google, they said they're doing it with the forecasted cost, but that is also a way to do it. But more importantly, I think it is important to understand every business as to how it works, because anomalies could result in noise. And we want to make sure that it's no more a noise. And that's why if you look at retail, you need to have at least 2 seasonal data. Primarily because they're running a lot of, they're reserving a lot of instances, and all of a sudden this spend will go higher, spend will go down, and that should not be reported at all as an anomaly. So there should be some sort of a way for anybody to go ahead and say, this is not an anomaly, this is an exception. But more importantly, you should be in a position to drill down, right? You can get a spend at a high level, but then when you drill down, you should go to the product category and then resource category, and finally the resource, right? So that's how the automated spend analysis should pretty much drive you. And that's what Corestack pretty much does. And moving on to the next slide, the second aspect of anomaly is event analysis, right? Because one, you are pulling in the cost usage data from the previous slide and coming up with the anomaly. But here it is more about event, because you need to be notified as a user on the very same day if an event occurs. And how do you intend to do it is have all of this reactive policy, which helps you with governance to basically set, hey, if this activity happens, essentially you're correlating activity and finding out whether that is resulting in an anomaly. Clearly, once you need to have an ability to go ahead and drill down and see what are those activities that are causing the anomalies, right? Moving on to the next slide, I'll just quickly go through what are those activities that you can really look for. This is only a simple list, but there's a whole lot of lists that can be built, policies can be built to see, hey, if there are number of resource provision within 30 minutes, if there are more than 10 resource provision in 30 minutes, it could be an anomaly, right? It could be, you can pretty much, define the duration also. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, it could be 1 hour. But the idea is within less than 5 hours, you need to be notified, sometimes even 3 hours, right? So there could be a purchase that could have happened in the marketplace, which could be an anomaly. There could be data egress happening in the network. That could be an anomaly. So there are a lot of anomalies that results based on events, and that is something we should be notified on. Spend analysis happens on a every day, but this is something that happens right when the things are happening in your environment. Next slide. Just as a wrap up, key takeaways, data is very, very key, right? If you don't use the right level of data sets, it becomes very, very difficult for you to go ahead and find what anomaly is. Automation is very key. Integration with your ecosystem tool to make sure that the notification is sent properly. That's very, very important. And more importantly, you should handle exception, primarily because anomaly should not result in noise. So with that, I'll close my session. Thank you.
Okay.
May I ask one question?
You've got 15 seconds.
Okay. How do you handle causality? Because I'm actually identifying anomaly, but I'm not getting any information on causality. What's causing the anomaly?
It's the event, right? When you go into the event, that's where the event correlation comes. I'll definitely, send out a Thiago Gil, right? So I'll respond to you on the private channel. Thanks.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right at time. Thank you. And a great reminder as well that everything is not just about cost, right? It's about anomalies can occur in multiple things, just like value can occur in different places other than just monetarily. So great. Thank you, Venki. Second up, we have Rob and Elliot from Harness.
Thanks.
You're going to share, right?
Yeah, I've got my own slides. Thank you very much.
There we go.
let's get going. So Harness has had a cloud cost management application and solution for 3 years now. We're here to obviously talk specifically about anomaly handling. So let's get in there. So if we look at the definition from FinOps, and obviously we heard this in the earlier session, what I'm going to concentrate on are the core capabilities: detect, identify, clarify, alert, and manage. So I think the first thing is you've got to have the right set of data to do the analysis on. So from a Harness perspective, we actually came from the CD world. So we're pretty heavy into the whole container space, like Kubernetes, ECS. And then obviously we're pulling in all the cost information from AWS, GCP, and Azure. Once you've got the data, we apply several different algorithms and statistical techniques. So we're doing anomaly detection via statistical methods, as well as forecasting at scale, sort of like the GCP approach that we heard about earlier. And what this allows us to detect is one-time cost spikes, gradual, consistent cost increases, and it also takes into account seasonality. So we identify an anomaly. Okay, now we need to actually present it in context to the team that owns it. So Harness as a cloud cost management solution obviously has what we call perspectives. So in this instance, we can see the data science team has a couple of anomalies that have occurred within their spend, and we provide drill down links where they can investigate those further. But we don't want to assume that the customer's going into that view, like on a intraday basis, yeah? So we obviously need an alerting or notification mechanism, whether or not that's using some of the more common platforms today, Slack, Teams, standard email, or even forwarding these on into Jira and Snow for some more formal process. On the clarify stage, this is where, we've got those drill downs. So as an end user, when I get that notification, or I'm actually already in the product and I have one of those pretty triangles, I can drill down and understand, what is the root cause or the root cost of this anomaly that's been raised. In this example, the data science team has suddenly incurred, like we're actually looking at the last 3 months, but we can see out of the blue, they've just incurred a bunch of egress costs, predominantly in North America, but they've also had some in other regions. And this perspective view allows the end user to manipulate the view. They can change the group by, look at this by region, by other aspects, including any tagging that you've got going on in your environment. And we can further drill down and the user can investigate what this cost is. I would classify this as sort of anomaly. So the first anomaly I've talked about is what I would really call anomaly, but we also do include enterprise dashboards. So we chose to embed GCP's Looker from their data analytics suite. And this also allows end users to actually set up alerting. Okay, so this is more manual configuration. It's not happening automatically, but it does give the user that granular level of control to do alerting that they choose to do on an enterprise grade dashboard. And then lastly, if we get back to the manage, which is the final piece of the puzzle, being able to see my recent anomalies in one place, be able to provide feedback into the engine to tell it that it's been incorrectly identified. And obviously, just drill down further or mark that anomalies have been reviewed and so that I don't have to go back into them again.
Okay.
And I think that's me at time.
That's it. Thank you very much, Robin. Okay, so those were our two partners working on managing anomalies. We want to move on next to our cost allocation capability. And so we've got 6 partners who are going to talk about their cost allocation capability. The first is going to be Tim from Exivity. And Tim, you've got slides, so I'll let you take it away.
I'll start sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yep. Ready to go.
All right, so we're Exivity. We're a FinOps certified platform. And I'm going to talk a bit about cost allocation, and in particular multi-cloud or even hybrid cloud, if you will. But why do we think this is 4 minutes worth of your time? Now let's look at these 4 different items here. So one of the things we think is extremely important is being cloud agnostic. And then what we mean with cloud agnostic is really truly cloud agnostic. So we don't go out to our development team and then build new integrations, but we can field engineer it and you can do the integration yourself. And why I'm mentioning this with regard to cost allocation is because you can do all your tagging in your different clouds if you have a multi-cloud strategy, but if you still have different knowledge silos for each cloud, for your public, for your on-premise, for your multi-public cloud strategy, then it will still be very challenging to get the overview on what does one department actually consume, or what does one application actually cost us as an organization, or from that point of view. And also we can plug into data centers. So if you really want to have that full visibility, not only on cloud, but maybe even legacy data centers, you could bring that to the mix as well. Then second, providing a flexible mapping engine is key in order to deliver the data and allocate the data to the appropriate business units or business users, because being you need to have lookup data, you need to have your metadata aligned. If your tagging strategy is not working, or we all have 100% mapping rate, right? No, of course you don't. You have maybe 90% if you're doing well, or 95%. That's all great, but there will always be a number of resources that you're unable to map or you forget to map. So it's vital that you either fix that data gap either in a solution like Exivity, or at least be able to identify them appropriately so that you can report on them in your user and app reports, and then basically be able to send out alerts to the appropriate business owners when that is needed, right? Same goes with budget management in general. And then lastly, what we also think is very important is being able to get that data easily across the enterprise. We know that getting engineers to take action is a very important task. Driving this FinOps culture within the organization is a big challenge. Now it's very important to make this data easily accessible, whether it's through reports like the ones we provide here in Exivity, where you can drill down into it, or whether you do this through an API interface. Now let's look how we can do this here in Exivity. So if you log into the portal, we can actually have hierarchical structure of the data. So this can be per organization, per business unit, per department, per application, and so forth. You can have that hierarchical structure. You can change it. It can be more levels, it can be less levels, and you can then drill into that data and see, okay, who's now using what? So what applications are being consumed within my organization, and also what items are actually not being able to be tagged, or which one are untagged, I should say, right? We can actually zoom into that and view, okay, we have some untagged resources in this example, where there's like compute hours on Azure and some networking devices that we haven't tagged. So now we can visualize this. We can actually report it back to the business, either by giving them access to this dashboard, which is role-based access, as you can see, for example, in this view, where I'm logged in as John Doe, and John Doe here has the ability to report on its own IT department, right?
Okay. Hey, Tim, I'm gonna have to cut you off right there. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah,
that was the 4 minutes.
That's fine. That's it.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you for presenting.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Next up in our cost allocation category is Jez back, and since I am calling out all of my FinOps Pro candidates, I will say that Jez back is a FinOps professional certified person, and was the first person globally to be certified as a FinOps professional. So thank you for that. Please reach out to him for anything that you need there. And Jez, I'll let you share your screen.
Excellent, thanks very much. Hopefully people should just be able to see me direct. And if I did that, you should all be able to see my screen or see me talking at the same time. Make life a little bit easier. And that way you can also see me wave my hands at the same time. So the big thing, oh, well, that's Rob's beating me up to it. Let's see if I can actually share my screen because I don't think that's going to work. So there we go. That should share.
We can see.
Oh, you can see. You can still see. Okay, fine. Well, okay, guys. So the big thing I wanted to do was I was going to break with what everybody else is doing, which is I'm not going to sit there and talk about and sort of soft sell what Thebes Cloud do. In the spirit of the FinOps Foundation, it's all about knowledge sharing and the rest of it. And I recognise that a lot of people here are not necessarily certified and done the course, which I strongly recommend you do. We are FinOps trainers as well, so if you don't have enough space or get onto the other courses, then give us a shout, we can help you out. And the point around that is really understanding why we do stuff around cost allocation. And it was brought out a little bit before, and that's about getting to FinOps Nirvana, which is unit economics, getting visibility and control and understanding about what's going on in there, which is obviously the first domain of FinOps, just getting a total cost view, and recognizing this impacts upon all personas. We as FinOps practitioners and as a community have got to look beyond just the technology dimension. We've got to look at the governance, business, finance, and technology grouping dimensions and make sure that people can understand why and where things are being allocated. That's a really, really key point. It's also really important because we can baseline, right? So we can get all of our data and our information and we can baseline it against all of the other capabilities in all of the domains of FinOps. So this is super, super important. Now, the way I want to sort of talk about this is one thing which is super helpful, I find, when we're working with organizations and helping them on their journey is about what I call the cost allocation cube. Yeah, the cube. And I can hear Nathan rolling his eyes already down the line because he hears about it every single day. Okay, so it's broken down into three areas: function, hierarchy, and products. Hierarchy, who owns it? Function, what does it do? Product, what does it enable? And it doesn't matter what cloud you use, what CSP you use, it works. Okay, and then if you've got a single one of those in a single instance, for example, you can then start creating the cube of cubes, which then starts describing that cost allocation of a product, service, or shared cost. And then you can create the cubes of cubes, and you put that all together to allocate against a business process. Why is that so important? That's really, really important because then you can start allocating technology efficiency to a business process, service, or outcome. Now, ways and tricks, right? So some top tips: free consultancy. Gamification helps at the engineer level, getting some dashboards and some composition going, but also use behavioral economics. What do I mean by that? Well, keep your eye out on our website and the rest of it. We're about to publish a series on behavioral economics. But one of the key parts is about the psychology and the behaviors that people do and their motivations. Why do they want to do this? Naturally, an engineer will not want to go through the hassle of going and creating the cost allocation cube, okay, be that through tagging and through other various other parts. By loss aversion theory, namely making it more painful not to do it, i.e. you can actually take away some of their time on a sprint, which you allocate at the end, which says, this is personal learning time or remediation time. You choose. If you do it right first time, you call that time for personal learning. Yet the feeling of loss will be huge to those people if you don't do it quickly enough. And I reckon I've got 45 seconds left. Yet there are some risks, and I'm not going to go through it. If you're familiar as a FinOps practitioner, you would know it. Okay, that's metadata and cost allocations will evolve over time. Your cost to serve, needs to be considered in doing it, and also getting engineers to take action. That's where that gamification and behavioral economics counts. The thing I will say at the very end of this, to wrap this all up, is don't just focus on the technology dimension and cost allocation. You need to consider all four dimensions. If you want to learn how, we have a thing called the YotaScale framework, and we will help you learn it and understand it. That is 15 seconds to go, Rob.
Perfect. Thank you, my friend.
Pleasure, as always.
Okay, our next partner who'll be presenting is Joel from BlueArch. And Joel, you've got your own slides as well. So
I do.
Let you begin sharing.
All right. So I'm going to cover theory and basic management strategies. We'll go over a use case as well, but also in the spirit of FinOps Foundation, as Beck mentioned, we'll be keeping it somewhat high level and not necessarily focusing on specific tools, but again, just sort of the management theory itself. So the problem statements we'll cover today: what is it? Why do we care? How do we manage it? And what does success look like? I restated or rephrased, while there's a lot of really good information on the FinOps.org site, the problem statement here to effectively just say that we are mirroring business-specific metadata to our cost data. And moreover, like cost allocation, I view as, I'm going to go ahead and say, the most foundational element of all of FinOps related tasks, given that whether it's anomaly detection, forecasting, you name it, it all sort of stems from the effective grouping of our costs and or usage metrics. We care because we need to answer questions like, you guys have probably seen this before, what percentage of our R&D costs are associated with customer X? Maybe you swap out R&D and say, how much does our sandbox specific environment or our production environment cost for customer X relative to customer Y or Z? Like, this will effectively tell you how efficient you are in supporting your individual customers. But more broadly, like the finance team might just want to know, well, how are we over or under budget for a specific project, and how much do we need to show and or charge back? The purpose-driven goals, and this is what these questions and so many more stem from, you can see down at the bottom, are really just about calculating the approximate or exact COGS. Again, Mr. Beck mentioned this, that like, this is the holy grail. This is why we are doing what we do. And ultimately that leads into ROI calculations. As a leader of a SaaS business or a business that has a fairly high infrastructure bill, I want to know where to spend my money. It's not just about reducing waste or cost. It's where do we spend? And then what is the expected return, both return time frame and return as a percentage or dollar value. So how do we manage it? There are a few different, I'm focusing specifically here on Botto 3 and the organizational client that's available. But there are a lot of different strategies. Keep in mind that this is a fairly opinionated one up front. We need to be intentional about how we are organizing our accounts, whether it's a multi or a single tenant type structure. Do you have sandbox accounts looped in a sandbox environment? Do you have them looped? Maybe you have all of your SaaS customers or your customers for your SaaS business in one folder or one grouping. Maybe you have a sales and marketing group. Maybe those are separate. All of these business specific labels are going to be pulled in and or used to assign relevant tags and ultimately roll up or roll up costs or roll under a specific customer. So a simple phase one implementation of this might be, maybe you have a customer metadata API, you have a CRM like Salesforce, and then as I mentioned, you sort of have this AWS organizations client. You can take all of this data, you create a central repository, a master table. Often those keys would be joined on, or your unique key here would be the account number. This specific example is favorable for a single tenant situation. We can discuss later sort of what a multi-tenant situation might look like. Phase two of this would be replacing that specific data set with more of a rules engine. And what that means is that you would apply the actual tags based on your business logic to, like I said, the specific AWS resources. And this would be managed, this code base would be managed either by the SRE or the platform teams, or more ideally, the FinOps Council themselves. So what does success look like? A lot of different ways to slice and dice this problem. For me, it means that there is a mechanism in place to either group business relevant data to your specific costs. That could be, as I mentioned, in sort of the phase one scenario, a central repository with maybe it's just a master table with canonical names, customer names, I don't know, other specific customer metadata. Maybe you have your project codes and whatnot also associated with your account numbers. And the second point that I really want to hit on is that this mechanism, whether it's code or this table in phase 1 or phase 2, it needs to be auditable by the FinOps Council members themselves, by finance teams, by your SRE teams, or platform teams, and your executives as well. This is effectively the transparency that's required in order to know that your business data, your business relevant data, is going to be grouped effectively with your cost data.
Okay.
So again, are we at time here?
Yeah, we're at time.
Okay. Well,
so Joel, thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but
all good.
Close to the end. Thank you. Our next presenter is going to be Jeff Harris from YotaScale, and you've got your own slides, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.
Hello,
everybody. My name is Jeff Harris, and I'm Director of Customer Success at YotaScale. I've spent the last 5 years working with some of the best engineering teams in the world. To help understand the challenges that they're facing and allocating costs at scale. Our company mission at YotaScale is to optimize the world's cloud computing spend by empowering engineering teams. And that's something that we really focus on. We believe that collaboration and distributed decision-making are key in modern technology-driven organizations. And we've built software that aligns with that goal. So today, I'm going to share how YotaScale helps customers across the spectrum of crawl, walk, run path that's been laid out by FinOps. We're going to start by looking at the end result for our demo customer Acme Tech, and then we'll kind of discuss how we got there and how we might be able to help you as well. All right, so we're now looking at the YotaScale dashboard. This is really the end result of working with YotaScale. For Acme Tech, they're now able to view their costs by business unit, team, and application. But this isn't the only way that our customers look at costs. It may be that you're trying to understand the cost of a product, the cost of a project, the cost of a specific customer, so you can do some margin analysis. It really varies across the types of businesses that we work with. But for Acme Tech, they've chosen business unit, team, application. Now this hierarchy is integral, is foundational to YotaScale. It feeds all of the rest of our modules. And so this cost allocation thing, if we get this right at the front end, we can really help enable the rest of the organization. This is about distributing data. So if I'm an engineer who lives on the consumer app API team, I can get the same dashboard experience for my infrastructure. And now I can see the cost of each application that I'm running within the cloud. And I drill into analytics, I'm again going to be able to see all of these costs broken out by different attributes that we can see here in the dashboard. So question is, how do we get to this level of being able to get this granular? How do we get customers started with this? Where we meet people on the phase of this is really in the first step of attribute mapping. Let's do a discovery of the tags that exist out there. Let's find where there's some duplicates. We can actually group those together into categories. And then we can apply regex policies to say, these are the values that I'm expecting. I only want to see alphanumeric characters and dashes in my system ID tag. I want this to be a mandatory tag along with my team tag. Once we've identified what the mandatory tags are, we've done some normalization and grouping these tag keys together. We can then do an analysis on our tagging. So now I go back and actually look at tagging. With the tagging module, we're able to not only identify where resources do not have the mandatory tags you've defined, do not meet the tag policy for the values that you've defined, but we can also remediate this, and we can automate that remediation as well. So in this case, I'm able to quickly identify where there's resources that don't have a team tag. In fact, some of these actually do have a system ID tag. So I can go fix this problem really quickly. 500 resources don't have a team tag. All it takes for me to do is add a tag, team, Jeff's team. And now I'm able to allocate the cost of those based on those tags. Once we've normalized the tags, we've updated the tag information, we can build out our rules. These rules are different from what you've seen before. Again, each of these rules lines up to an application for Acme Tech. We're also applying some transformation to the strings before we do the allocation, so we're normalizing this data as well. Here we can see we've replaced some of the non-useful characters from the string, and we've also lowercase this so that we can get to a comparison of AI automation workbench. Going beyond one hierarchy, so we've talked about this, within a hierarchy, every single cent of your bill is allocated somewhere. We don't lose any of it. If we don't have a way to allocate it, it goes to unallocated. Now we do have customers that have multiple ways of viewing costs. we call these lenses, and lenses are different hierarchies. So for green tech here, they've got two ways of viewing costs, one from an infrastructure perspective and one from a business perspective. There's a lot more around what we're doing here in allocation. I can talk about shared costs as well and container costs, but I'm going to pause here. Thanks for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks very much. That was exactly on time. Amazing. Okay, thanks to YotaScale. Our next presenter, nope, there we go. Our next presenter is Juan from Escala, 24/7. Juan, are you here?
Hey all, yeah.
Okay, take it away.
Let me share my screen. Okay. All right. So our name is. Can you all see?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So our name is Scala 24/7. We were mainly a consulting and managed service partner born in Latin America. One of the main challenges in this region is that cost is a main constraint in the region. Most customers are very new to the cloud OpEx model. They have very little knowledge of cloud services. The decision making is very centralized. And so we kind of started, we started almost more than 10 years ago. And we started seeing, a pattern there where without cost allocation, most organizations kind of fell into, two sides. One, where you had people with amazing innovation and speed, but runaway costs. And then you had people with very little innovation and very stable costs, but not really, fulfilling the cloud potential. So our solution was kind of a homebrew cloud cost management, which almost 2 years ago, we kind of found out, hey, there's other people doing this. And now it's called continuous FinOps consulting. So what do we do here? We engage with our customers, and usually this is a continuous engagement. First, to assess maturity, kind of understand where they are, do interviews with IT, finances, business, kind of understand where everyone is, how well they understand, how cloud works, map out the internal structure, what are the processes currently in place to separate costs, to kind of, to charge back to everything, and measure what's their maturity in 5 categories. After that, we develop a custom roadmap. All customers are different. We have people from very traditional banks, fintech, you have airlines, you have all kind of organizations here. But we can just do a FinOps introduction, kind of get them to know the framework, to all the teams that are going to be involved, develop a custom-built roadmap for starting to adopt this and kind of transform the company internally. And in that sense, we are playing the part of a FinOps team, kind of just, full-time, month after month inside the customer. And we take into account what are the needs that we found out talking with IT, finances, etc. Then we help them allocate cost and ownership. This is something that is it's quite a challenge sometimes, but a lot of customers have some tagging policies already in place where they're very incomplete, they're very unkempt. So we help them, either develop them or fine-tune them, kind of get the enforcement part in place so they can have everything fully tagged and fully identified, as well as guiding customers on how to decentralize the cost control from technology, which is usually the case from the IT management, and ensure that they have enough granularity in this allocation so that in the near future, they will be able to measure efficiency and kind of play around with unit economics. And after that, we help them build reports. We have a preferential tool, but we can use whatever tool the customer has to kind of define what reports they need, what is going to be the cadency for different areas, ensure that people have access at any time, basically real time, and then make sure to automate and force reports on each part of the organization so everyone has an eye on what's going on in the cloud. And then just basically, I know this is mostly about cost allocation, but we do encourage continue the cycle and ensure there's an adoption of all of the FinOps principles within the customers. Do periodic follow-up with all the areas, fine-tune what is already in place, what we already had in that first phase. Give them tools so they can keep their applications optimized, and just basically help them transform the company internally and ideally have their own FinOps team. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Juan. And our last presenter in the cost allocation category is Gabrielle Jones from Zero.
Yes, I'm here, but it's telling me I can't share my screen yet.
All right, I'll go.
Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm Jabril. I'm a senior sales engineer at CloudZero. We are a comprehensive FinOps platform that basically can serve all your FinOps needs. We do everything from visibility and allocation to reporting and budgeting and even optimization suggestions. Now, the two biggest problems that we easily solve for our collection of customers would be, how can I allocate my spend beyond tagging? And also, how can I get K8's visibility and commingle that K8's cost data with the rest of my data? So the way we basically do that is through our core functionality, which is dimensions. So here you see we could do, we have default dimensions out of the gate. And dimensions are basically cost groupings, right? But they can be built on top of one another. So they can serve as sources of cost spend or additional dimensions that are built. The dimension that you see here on the screen is actually a customer dimension. So this is how you could get to that unit economics, or the nirvana, right? Where you can get cost per customer, but you can also build other dimensions as well, custom dimensions, whether it's business unit or team or product or something like that. Now, in this situation where I'm looking at my cost per customer, if I'm trying to isolate, okay, Acme is my biggest cost, like the driver of cost as far as my customers are concerned. So if I drill down to the next level, I can see the features that are driving that cost, but I can also just get down all the way to the resource level and say, okay, what are the specific resources that this customer is using that's driving my cost? And we can see that the top two here are Snowflake warehouses. And then there's also a Lambda function that's generating cost as well. And we can drill down and zoom in into the details and the metadata of this particular Lambda function. Now, why is the metadata important? Because that's how we get beyond tagging, right? So these default out-of-the-box dimensions that we call cloud provider dimensions are actually just resource metadata dimensions: region, account, usage type, instance type, etc. The AWS tag dimensions are here as well, so you can continue using those. And then we also use the same dimension functionality for Kubernetes. So that's how we get into the details of being able to look at a Kubernetes namespace. And then we can go down and zoom in and see the pod. And then when we click on the pod, we can see all of the servers that this pod has been deployed on and what those particular costs are. Now, how do we make all of this happen, right? So just a little deep dive a little bit. So we can talk about our cost formation YAML file. This is how you can do the rules to do the mapping, right? So in this example, I have an environment dimension and I want to split out my production costs from my non-production costs. People typically call that COGS versus OpEx. And for my production grouping, I'm going to use two tag dimensions, right? Because, hey, mistakes happen, right? ENV lowercase, ENV uppercase. And then we have a Kubernetes dimension, and then also just a standard resource metadata dimension. And then all of that spend is brought in. And if any of those items contain either prod or production, right? These different variances that can happen, all of that spend will be grouped into production. So the key here is that the dimensions really drive this kind of visibility to get you to the unit economics that everybody strives for, but without the headache of taking your engineering team away from efficiently building great product, right? By having to do these tagging stories and cycles and things like that. So that's what CloudZero offers in terms of cloud cost allocation and also Kubernetes visibility. Thank you.
We are going to go and hear from Casey Doran. Let me make sure that Casey is here and is unmuted. There you go. And Casey,
I'm here, Ben.
Excellent. You should be able to share your screen, sir.
Awesome. You able to see that okay?
Yep, spot on. Brilliant.
Awesome. So as Ben said, Casey Doran from Sync Computing. Just want to give a little high level about what we're up to. We're a relatively recent Series A startup. So let me just grab this quickly here. So at a high level, what we're working on is reinventing how engineering teams navigate the complex world of cloud infrastructure. I'm going to focus in, of course, on the specific things that we can help with in budgeting and forecasting as I get through this. So we strongly believe organizations should, instead of just doing best guesses on what infrastructure they should use for a given deployment, they should do a data-driven approach and be thinking about cost and performance SLAs as they do that. We think engineers, especially data engineers, should be focusing on development rather than nuanced infrastructure selection in kind of a large sea of options. And we believe forecasting should happen at the workload level and be done in an automated way that can add intelligence to high-level forecasting, whether that be within team, application, or organizational budgeting and forecasting. So we're all aware of this problem, right? There's almost unlimited infrastructure choices when you're making a deployment out there, which leads to unpredictable costs. And it's almost impossible, right, to forecast and budget what's going to happen based on these fluctuations. If you look at that middle graphic, that is one specific workload run on 10 or so different infrastructure options, and literally the same workload, same data set. That's specifically an Apache Spark job, and you can see the just wide variance in cost as well as runtime for that specific job. So what Sync is doing is essentially we're doing predictive analysis based on having modeled infrastructure and how specific applications run on given infrastructure, so we can make predictions and forecast specifically cost and runtime, and depending on what infrastructure you choose, what you're expected to get. So how does that support budgeting and forecasting? I think the optimization stuff there is obvious. You can see the left one there in terms of making the appropriate selection. Like maybe you're willing to spend more to have something run faster, right? Or maybe you're fine if that workload runs longer and it costs less. In terms of budgeting and forecasting, think about setting budget guidance per workload. This workload must run $10, and then what are my options within that $10, $100, whatever, and constrain those options to that, based on some governance that you can set. In terms of forecasting, incorporating that real-time workload cost into forecasting models, and then also looking at historical trends. One Apache Spark job, for example, may have different data sets that it runs every time. The cost is going to fluctuate. Looking at that from a historical perspective is going to help you model that in the future. So how does it work? Let me jump quickly over to a quick demo. So this is a result essentially of a set of predictions for a job on Databricks running on AWS. So in order to get to this point, we've ingested a very small amount of data, an Apache Spark log, as well as some basic information about the cluster you're running on. You can see at the top, we're showing the most performant approach, the most balanced approach, and the cheapest approach. But if you look at this graph, this is a cost and runtime graph of all of the predictions or forecasts that we have made for cost and runtime for that given workload. Each one of these has an associated cost to it. And you can imagine ingesting this data to understand kind of where you could go with that, what it's expected to cost, on top of giving the engineer the ability to make the right selection. You can see comparisons to where you're currently running. You can see up at the dot here, this is where you are now. So lots of opportunity to improve that on top of just gathering that forecasting data. And so you can see here how useful this could be for a variety of activities within the team. And then beyond that, these are the technologies we currently support. So we're able to make these sorts of predictions and forecasts for Spark, EMR, Databricks. Well,
yeah, I got it. That's your time, man. I'm sorry, dude. All right.
Good, that's it. Done.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Casey. Next up, we have got, when I get my screen sharing behaving itself. Can you see the Anadot screen? There we go. So we've got Ira Cohen from Anadot, who is going to talk to us about the forecasting budget management available there. Take it away, Ira. You should be able to show your screen.
Let me share my presentation and start my time. So, hi, my name is Ira Cohen. I'm the Chief Data Scientist for Anadot, and we are a machine learning-based company. Part of our offering is cloud cost management, and basically it allows our customers to both visualize complete multi-cloud Kubernetes visibility, optimize with a lot of different automatic recommendation actions. And the part that I'm going to talk about today is our ML-powered forecasting. We also have the part that does anomaly detection, and as a Google guy mentioned before, to do anomaly detection, you first have to forecast. So the capabilities for forecasting and budgeting, first step is accurate attribution, and I won't go into that at all. The second step is actually to be able to forecast at high granularity, both breakdowns, forecast at any breakdown of granularity by service, by team, by product, and allow the flexibility to do it any way you want. And also different horizons for different tasks. So 1 month ahead, quarter ahead, a year ahead, and so on. The next step is accurate budgeting. Basically use the forecast at any granularity to get accurate budgets and see and plan the next year for all your activities. And the last step is use the forecast, the ongoing continuous forecast that the system provides to alert on forecasted budget overruns. So how do we do it, and what's special about machine learning based forecasting and what makes our very accurate? We've applied it to lots of different domains, not just cloud cost. And the key attributes that we saw that are really required are ability to automatically detect seasonal patterns within the data, adapting to new normal because things keep changing, and you have to have the forecasting algorithms keep adapting to the new normals that happen. Allow the algorithms to learn the influence of events such as releases and new products, new customers that you are going to onboard. All of these are events that are going to influence the forecast, and you have to let the algorithms learn that influence, and that's what we have implemented. And also influence metrics. So you could have business metrics that we collect also in the product that influence what will be the cloud cost. Finally, there isn't a single model, machine learning model, that can do everything most accurately. So we use the best in breed and proprietary machine learning algorithms to produce the forecast. And this is a comparison that one of our customers did with our forecast on a very challenging task, forecasting 7 months ahead at daily granularity in the beginning of the pandemic, where things really changed significantly. And they compared Prophet, open source, various AWS forecasting mechanisms, and you can see the difference in accuracy. And forecasting is hard, and you have to do it. You have to put in a lot of machine learning work to get it right. So with that, I'm done. Thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Ira. And let me take the share screen share back. I'll be able to produce English words at some point. Next up, we've got Dean Misick from CloudVein. Are you there, Dean?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, guys.
Okay, take it away.
It says that I cannot start sharing.
You should be able to start.
Yeah, no, fine. It's fine. Here we go. Okay, so hi guys. My name is Dean. I'm from NEOS, a company from Zagreb, Croatia. So good morning to everybody. This late afternoon for me. NEOS is a company based in Zagreb with 20 years of experience. We started with data analytics, so we know a lot about data. But in the last couple of years, we directed ourselves toward multi-cloud. We joined the FinOps Foundation at the early start with the Cloudicon, as you can see by my t-shirt. We were there, it was fun for you who wasn't there. So we are a FinOps certified service provider with a couple of certified FinOps practitioners, and we are developing a software platform for cloud cost management called CloudVein, which tries to embed all the best FinOps practices in it. And we currently support all the major providers, including Oracle, who is small, but we are a big partner of Oracle. So we started with that twist in it. Today, I'm going to talk about budgeting in our platform and how we tie it to forecasting with a little tool with a little twist on the end where we try to embed some sort of additional benefit to our customers. So with budgets, we try to embed all the things that are popular with the platform. So as we are a multi-cloud platform, we do have multi-platform budgets. So you can create your own budget on different levels. And what I'm talking about is scope. So as you create your budget, you can define different types of scopes. So you can have a scope on your company with multiple cloud accounts, or your cloud account which you have some sort of budget on top of, or even cost center, which is the smallest drill down into your, so some of your resources which are defined for your application development, some small scope. So then you define your period. So we have monthly, quarterly, annual, or custom. You have your period where you start from, where you end. You define your budget amount, and then you jump into the thresholds part. So this is the part where you want to really keep you posted on top of your, where are you on top of your budgets. So we have actual cost thresholds where you actually achieve some threshold with percentage, but which is more important to us is the prediction. So forecast of the costs, so that you know when on the start of the month, if our forecasting model will manage that you have 100% of the budget to reach by the end of the month, you want to know it immediately. And this is something that you can see here on the budget overview. So you have your actual cost for this month, for this period of your budget, and you have the projection here, which is quite visible by the change of colors. So we have the 107% of budget by the end of the month. So you try to get in that. But on top of that, we want to act not just by notification. So because our application has some sort of automation in it, so we can act on resources. You can easily create action groups, which are a couple of resources tied together in a group. And then you can use that threshold, that actual threshold, to create some sort of a stop action or terminate action on your resources. So I easily define the budget threshold here and stop all my resources when my budget is reached. That's it. Thank you.
Just about bang on time. Thank you, Dean. All right. Next up, we have got Hassan Husseini from, did I pronounce that properly? Hello, Hassan Husseini.
That was perfect, yeah.
Excellent. I've got the wrong slide being shown, which is really good. That's gone really well.
There we go. That's me.
It's great, this, isn't it? From Infracost.
It's all good.
Take it away, Hassan.
Ben, I want to hear that banjo one time as well. That sounds awesome.
So
I was talking to Steve about where we should put Infracost because it's slightly different. So we went with forecasting. And I'll give you a quick background because I think cloud costs have always been like kind of forecast, try to track against, and then kind of goes out of whack or goes out of track with the forecast, and then it blows up. So with what we're trying to do, and then you got to get someone to fix it, right? So what we're trying to do with Infracost is kind of change it a little bit, and I'll give you a demo of what that looks like. So it's more like put it in the engineering workflow so that if engineers are making any changes, we show them how that change is going to affect costs, and then make that visible for the central FinOps team as well. So it's open source tool, so feel free to check it out. If you go into, if you add Infracost into any CI/CD pipeline like GitHub Actions, you basically can then get every single person who makes a change to the code. Infracost jumps in, analyzes the previous code they've written and the new code, and says, okay, here's a cost estimate of the previous and the new one. Because you're making this change, you will increase costs by this much. So remember, this hasn't gone live yet, but they're being told, hey, this will have a cost impact. And then you can kind of open it up and see exactly where those cost increases are coming from. So like this one I love to show up, which is like storage costs about $70. But if you tick on you want provision input output operations, it'll add another $375. Like, how do we expect any engineer to know that has a cost and that is super expensive? So this is kind of, for the first time, we're showing them interface in the place where the code review is happening, how much this costs, and they can decide to proceed in a specific way. And then for the forecasting part, for the kind of closing the loop, then we give FinOps practitioners a view of every single change that is happening, when that change is going to happen, who the person making the change is, and how that cost impact is going to affect it. So increases, and if you're doing cost saving exercises, decreases. And from here, you can see the same thing, right? Jump in and see what is being changed, what is the total cost. And then if you wanted to say, hey, well, we don't want this to actually incur costs or do something about it, you click on the link, you jump in, and you can actually say, hey, can you review this, please? So it's kind of that kind of bringing the proactive side of cost management and forecasting in, and kind of creating that culture change within engineering of this stuff has a cost impact. You can see it, and then you can see how that in the future, when budgets, you can set forecast budgets in place, and before anything goes live says, hey, this will break a budget. Are you okay to proceed? So that's what we're trying to do with InfoCost. And that's it. Yeah, happy to answer any questions later as well.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a minute under time. Thank you, Hassan. Awesome. So next up, so that was a good dig into the forecasting capability, which, as I said earlier, is an art and a science. And now we're going to go and have a look at some more people solving the managing commitment-based discounts strategy. And first up, we have got Eric from ProsperOps. Eric, are you there, sir?
I'm here.
Marvelous. Let me stop sharing and you can go for it.
Great. All right, so we're a company that firmly believes in automated savings outcomes. So reporting and visibility are wonderful things, but we believe over time those things will give way to fully automated solutions. You're seeing this in other areas like automotive, where Google Maps is great today, gives you reports and plans of how to get places, but over time, cars will drive themselves. And so we're a company about bringing fully automated outcomes to FinOps and cloud. And specifically today, we're going to look at our autonomous discount management service. And so once this is enabled in your environment, our service takes over RI and savings plan management on your behalf, and handles all of the day-to-day management that's required to both maximize your savings and reduce your risk. And so we watch your usage in real time, and we dynamically adapt your commit discount portfolio to both, again, maximize savings and reduce risk. So let's take a look at a demo here. When I say demo, this mode that I'm showing you is actually not just a demo environment. The best way to showcase algorithms like this is to show you real world examples. And so this is a actual customer of ours that has been fully anonymized in every way. And so what we're showing you here today is just the real world outcomes that our service can deliver. I've selected this customer for a couple of reasons. One is, they're a fairly large customer, spending about $20 million a month in terms of AWS usage. And so our platform is able to handle environments of all scale. The other reason I've selected them is because they're a fairly volatile environment. Over the course of June, we're looking at June finalized data here, they had 1.5 million EC2 state changes. So a pretty volatile environment, auto scaling up and down, starting and stopping instances quite regularly. And so if I scroll down here and show you this chart here, what you see here is basically a view of their daily compute usage over the course of June. And you can see how they're auto scaling up and down, et cetera. Of course, there's hourly volatility in there as well. And our service will automatically deploy a set of savings plans and then RIs. And notice that usage pattern is following dynamically up and down to generate an overall coverage for the month of June of 98.7%, delivering 49.7% discounts with near perfect utilization rates. And for this month of June, our service took 2,200 actions on the customer's behalf, meaning each of those is a programmatic call to the cloud provider to manipulate the commitment in some way. That works out to more than 3 per minute. And so this is just an example of where in some areas, computers can just do things better than even the best humans. And our service is watching and continually manipulating the environment. The question is, can this outperform whatever a customer is currently doing? And our chief KPI and a critical thing I want to convey, if you kind of get nothing else today, is this concept of effective savings rate. And so just like in investing, you can measure ROI of how well did an investment perform. Effective savings rate measures at the end of the day, when all is said and done, what is the effective savings rate that you've achieved? And Prosper Ops will take customers into the 98th percentile of the savings outcomes. This customer was previously achieving 42.2. Our service took them net of our charge to 48.3. And so that difference is basically money back into their budget. And so if you're interested in learning about effective savings rate more, you can go to effectivesavingsrate.com. There's a Google sheet where you can calculate your own effective savings rate. Thanks.
Nice. Thank you very much indeed. Okay. Next up, we have got some content from Tracy Stam and Craig Lowell. Tracy and Craig, are you there?
Yes. Can we share locally?
I can drive your slides or you can share. It's up to you.
Yeah, I'd like to share, please.
Go ahead. There you go.
Hold on, please. All right.
Off you go.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. I'm Tracy Stam from Do It. I'm here today with my colleague, Craig Lowell. Hi, Craig.
Hey, everyone.
We are excited to showcase the Do It capabilities for optimizing commitment-based discounts that can help you manage cloud spend with automation and flexibility. For those in the room maybe less familiar with Do It, we've been an MSP in the cloud space for over 10 years, helping more than 3,000 customers manage over $1 billion in cloud spend. And that cloud spend is no small chunk of your IT budget, of course. We find it typically consumes 50 to 80% of the budget. And when it's time to manage costs, obviously this is the biggest fish to be chasing. But managing these costs is pretty tricky. Cloud provider discount plans are available and helpful in this regard, but they don't totally address the challenge. Organizations still have to forecast their demand with ease and accuracy. And that is really tough. Forecasting the size and shape of that demand is really hard. Which regions, which machine types, what commitment type should they be anticipating? Craig, maybe you can tell us what's needed to do this well.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. So given all of those challenges that Tracy just talked about, Do It really set out to create a solution that hits some key requirements for our customers. So one is that it had to be fully automated so they can focus on actually building their products and businesses and remove those management challenges. It had to provide savings without restrictions or requirements that come from compute-based commitments. They had to be guaranteed that they would save money. And it had to work on both AWS and GCP, as well as multi-cloud environments. So with that in mind, FlexSave is the solution that we created to address those challenges. So using automation, FlexSave provides flexibility to add on-demand workloads as needed and still get savings on those workloads without the risk that comes from commitments or the management challenges that come from managing a big portfolio of commitments. And like the rest of our offerings that Do It, it's also available at no cost to the user on both AWS and Google Cloud. So how does this all work? FlexSave is constantly monitoring your cloud environment to identify on-demand workloads that are not covered by reserved instances, savings plans, committed use discounts, or EDPs. And then it automatically applies discounts to any workloads that aren't covered by those without the customer having to do anything at all. You just turn it on and then you see the savings on your next bill. So with this new standalone version of FlexSave that we've launched, it does not require a reseller partnership with Do It, but we do already have hundreds of our resold customers taking advantage of this technology, and many, like Anagog seen here, are saving over 30% on their on-demand cloud spend without any effort on their part at all. So getting started with this tool is actually a pretty simple two-step process. You first generate a savings estimate based on the cloud provider's savings recommendations, and then connect your cloud environment to ours without any risk to secure data or existing cloud workloads. We don't touch your workloads. We don't create anything. All we do is apply discounts to the on-demand workloads that are already running. And this setting it up can actually be done entirely in a self-service workflow. That being said, we're also happy to walk anyone through it on a call or answer any questions along the way. So thank you very much for your time.
Outstanding, nailed it again. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, now we're going to go over to the optimization bear himself, Mr. Aditya Datta from CloudWire. Are you there, sir?
I'm here, Mr. Ben. How are you, sir?
I'm ready. Let's rock and roll. Let's do this. You can pick up the share of your screen. You're good to go to share your screen, Aditya.
Perfect. Thank you. Please let me know once you can see the screen.
Yep. Let's go.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I'm Aditya. I've been a practitioner in the cloud space for 10 plus years. CloudWire focuses on a simple task, which is how do we help you run your FinOps practice in a simplified manner across the board. Today, I'll be focusing on what we started off with, which is commitment-based discounts, and how do you simplify commitment-based discounts to get the maximum savings. We cover AWS, Azure, and GCP for commitment-based discounts across our customer base. In our opinion, getting started with commitment-based discounts is the first thing you should be doing. It's the easiest, fastest savings that you can get from the cloud providers when managed effectively through the flexibility that exists in these commitment-based discounts. If you know the fine print and are able to effectively deploy that fine print, it enables you to adjust your commitment-based discounts to your varying needs effectively, thereby enabling you to get the savings now. So this is the fastest way you can have savings. Commitment-based discounts have zero engineering, infrastructure, or application overhead, as well as the operate maturity for run phase on commitment-based discount can be achieved in 30 days or less. Practitioners, on the other hand, their job for commitment-based discounts is not easy, right? You have to forecast the demand if you're doing it by yourself. You have to understand the fine print of all the nuances that exist. You got to get internal approvals against it. You have to operate on purchasing, managing, exchanging operations in Azure and AWS. And then you have to manage your commitment-based discounts for their full effectiveness and do chargeback and showback reporting around it, understand where your savings are, understand your utilization and all that other good stuff. This can all be automated away. CloudWire does automate this away for our customer base. Our approach is for the planning phase. Each customer's needs can be unique. Each particular customer may have its own specific starting point on where they are. So we do an assessment to help you understand against the industry's best practices, what are your potential savings? And then on the operate phase, it is automated where the system is automatically adjusting your cash flow commitments for your commitment-based discounts on a daily basis. So it's automatically looking at the changes in your environment, and based on those changes, it's going ahead and performing the exchange operations or refinance operations or purchase operations as needed. And then finally, there is the validate phase of making sure you're getting the right savings, and these savings are being effectively attributed. Not a trivial task to be done in a lot of situations. You may be buying them in a particular manner and then distributing them in a more organized, based on the organization priorities. Keys to commitment-based discounts, there's really coverage. There's no reason why you shouldn't be covering up to 100% of your stable usage. Utilization can be easily 99% plus if you're effectively managing it through CloudWire platform. And then 1 year versus 3 years ratio of the commitment-based discounts you're deploying makes a humongous difference on what your net effective rate is, right? Your savings rate is. So we help our customers rapidly transition to 3-year savings instruments while managing their downside risk without having to worry about forecasting. Once you've done commitment-based discounts as your first step, you can still go ahead and you still got to do your ongoing TAC compliance and work. We support our customers in simplifying that, budgeting and forecasting based on team-based structures to effectively manage your budgets and ongoing management. I think my time's up, Ben. So, and then automated cost visibility and resource optimization. So I'll stop there.
Nice. I actually had you with another 8 seconds, so you pretty much got there. Thank you, Aditya. That's brilliant. Okay, next up, we have got Jim Gallagher from Archera to talk to us about that platform there. Jim, are you there?
I'm absolutely here. Thank you so much.
Ready for you to share when you are.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let me set my timer here. All right, fabulous. Thanks, everybody. My name's Jim. I run the solutions architecture teams here at Archera, and our platform is designed to really help companies who struggle with their commitment strategy by providing best-in-class optimization tools across all of the various permutations of the savings vehicles, and a unique commitment insurance model that we call a guaranteed RI or GRI. So we see that companies really struggle with commitments for two primary reasons. One is there's just way too many options to consider between various contract term lengths, upfront capabilities, and the second is workload uncertainty, just not sure how long this infrastructure is going to be around for. So Archera solves for both of those. We're a full service SaaS FinOps platform. We provide low to no cost tools around budgeting, forecasting, all phases of the FinOps lifecycle. Today, we're going to be focusing, of course, on the commitment planning and optimization aspect. And then in addition, we offer this unique insurance model. What's really exciting about these GRIs is that they offer commitments as short as 30 days. So it really unlocks net new strategies when it comes to planning and managing your infrastructure and really optimizing your effective discount. So our commitment portal is one of the features of our platform, and it's a really powerful approach to being business aware when it comes to planning your commitment strategies. We all know there's no one size fits all approach for every single company out there. So we consider all of the various permutations and options, including our unique offerings, and help companies really balance the trade-off between savings and commitment risk. So to that effect, our CTO has a really unique background. He comes from the options trading Wall Street world. And so we've taken that portfolio optimization mathematics and applied it to this cloud discount problem. And really, when you start tallying up all the various options and permutations, it turns out to be like quadrillions of options when you take a look at an entire company's infrastructure. So by combining all of these into an optimal blended approach, and since we're a full service FinOps platform, we can also be forecast aware and take that into account. And then we start building in these business aware purchase plans. So beyond just the purchase planning capabilities itself, we have this unique capability called a guaranteed RI. You can think of it as a unique RI type with commitments as short as 30 days. It can unlock much higher net savings than the standard off-the-shelf offerings from the CSPs themselves. And it really is, you can think of it either as an insurance model or like an options contract when it unlocks these flexible term length commitments where you have the option to sell it back to Archera at any point after either 30 days or a 1-year term length. So how does it shake out from a savings perspective? If you're considering a no upfront 1-year RI, it's in a sense a no-brainer to go with the GRI instead, because we unlock 12% higher savings than the standard offering themselves. And when you start looking at more flexible options, this 30-day version of the GRI, we can come in at a 30% discount compared to something like a savings plan. So higher savings and greater flexibility. In terms of our own business model, right, these GRIs are underpinned by standard 3-year no upfront RIs from AWS. And for the various term lengths, we assess a small risk premium to cover our own internal risk in terms of this insurance model. And as far as the optionality goes, right, with a standard 1-year commitment, this is the minimum you can get from the cloud vendor itself, you're kind of locked in at that point. With the 30-day GRI, at any point after that 30 days, you have the option, but not the obligation to sell that back to us, similarly with the 1-year term. So I think I'm at time. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much, Jim. That was really cool. Appreciate that. Okay, now, next up, we have Monsieur Franck Contempois. Franck, sir?
I am here, yes.
Marvelous. Do you want to drive the slides or shall I?
Let me share the screen.
Okay. Go ahead when you're ready.
Yep. Where is it? Here we go. Share. Can you see it?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So let's start fast if I manage to change slides. So I'm Franck Contrepoix. I'm head of FinOps Consulting at Strategic Blue, and I really focus this presentation to be useful for practitioners. So that's my only kind of sales pitch is you minimize your cloud use, we minimize your cloud costs. But the interesting thing. So I want to start with, when you look at all the capabilities that are in the FinOps framework, there are lots of them, and all of them are really hard to set up because it's all like a three-legged race. You need to have multiple collaboration all together to make anything happen, including management commitment-based discount. And the reality is those two guys that you see on the pictures are the world champion of three-leg race. Your projects are more likely to look, and mine too, by the way, like this. But now that we've done some fun, let's go and let's be serious for a whole minute. So the idea is I wanted to explain some things about commitment that people don't think much about. So cloud vendors are buying data centers for 30 years. For 30 years, they are 30 years commitment. Servers are 3 to 7 years commitment, yet everything is sold by the second. So the cloud vendors are taking a huge amount of risk, and that risk is what they add into the on-demand pricing. I call that a risk premium. So the more you move that risk from the cloud vendors to you, the more reduction you will get, the more reduction in risk premium. So it's presented that you'll get a discount on the on-demand price. So if commitments are risk movers, there are two main dimensions that you need to pay attention to. It's duration and specificity. Long and very specific, I want to use this instance type in this region for 3 years, you're going to get the best discount. I want to use this same instance in this same region, but for a shorter time, that's going to give you a less important discount. If you go with the long and generic, this is the classic enterprise discount. When you just ask for 3 years, I'm going to spend that amount of money, I want an overall discount. That's the next level. Short and generic, that's usually, I would say, the Google sustained usage discount, when you use something, whatever, for a certain short amount of time and you get a discount. And the last one, obviously, is on demand. Spot is a different thing. In spot, you take all the risk, and in exchange, you get a better discount. So we've been training at Strategic Blue for 11 years on managing those discounts. So we're still in the mud with you probably, but we can smile during that mud. So that's a big difference. And we use I. And what I mean by I is intelligence. We use a strange old technology called human beings, and it really works nicely. They are flexible, they work hard, and they get usually the answers you need exactly, not in a strange format, but usually in words and writing. So in summary, thanks. What we do, we can go into the cloud rate optimization as a walk or as completely as a run. We can either outsource it all and get it all and help you get better at it. As Strategic, so we are fintech, and you can notice the expansion on fin and less on tech. With 11 years of experience in FinOps, we just didn't know what was the name before, that it was called that way before. And that's it. Get in touch. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you, sir. Okay, and finally, to bring us home, we have Naman Jain from CloudKeeper. Naman, are you there, sir?
That was okay.
Yep.
This was not too much salesy, I hope.
Oh, sorry. Are you there, Naman?
Yep, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, okay. Ready when you are.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Naman Jain. I am going to talk about a highly differentiated cloud FinOps solution, which is quite an end-to-end FinOps solution, CloudKeeper. It's by To The New. To The New is a premier partner of AWS. Just quick facts about us. We are a premier consulting partner. We are their audited managed service provider, and we are authorized resellers. And we have been practicing FinOps for over 10 years now. And currently have over 250 active FinOps customers. That includes financial institutions, healthcare firms, government bodies, public listed companies, and several venture-backed technology companies from all across the globe. We have been in this business for over 14 years, 2,000 people, been AWS partners since 2013, and have offices in the US, UAE, Australia, Singapore. We are an ISO 27000 certified SOC 2 compliant organization, and currently managing over 100 million annual run rate of the AWS billing. So that's the scale that we are managing in terms of purely AWS billing, being the resellers. This CloudKeeper solution, as I said, it's an end-to-end FinOps solution. It has 3 S savings, software, and support services. We looked at different tools, different services, service providers, and different discount or billing providers, but we have all of this bundled into one solution. The first component that we have, savings, is primarily where we offer reserved instances like pricing for all the on-demand usage for all the customers. So be it anybody having spent $5,000 a month or $500,000 a month, everything which is running on demand will be billed at reserved instance pricing. The other is discount on pricing, which are discounted pricing for services like CloudFront, AWS support, which have tiered pricing. And this brings in guaranteed savings. So there is no automated tool or automation being happening where we do analyze and then decide on the savings. It is guaranteed. So we contractually commit to minimum 5%, and it goes up to 15% on your total bill. This saving is from day one, and there is no lock-in. So it is effective immediately and instantly. And there is no lock-in, no commitment, and no cost. We do not charge anything. What you have to do is just route the billing through us. The second component of it is where we saw several tools existing in the market where, so we have got the CK Lens, which gives you daily, monthly cost breakup. It doesn't require any kind of access to your account, and it gives you resource level cost visibility. Then the third part is support services, where there are several partners existing providing this service. We do provide this as free, well-architected reviews, help in anomaly detections, notifications, backup strategy, tagging, and there is dedicated technical account manager, solution architect by AWS. So that's all it covers. And the best part is getting started is quite simple and takes not more than 5 minutes. So within 5 minutes, you have immediate instant reduction on your monthly bill. So that's what CloudKeeper offers. That's pretty much. We have customers from all across the globe, US, Europe, India, Australia, and we are based out of these different locations. So that's pretty much, I guess I'm pretty much on time, and hope this gives you a good idea.
Perfect. Yeah, you have 15 seconds left. Thank you very much, Salman.
JR here from the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for watching. Please go to finops.org if you want to get plugged into this amazing community. And of course, hit subscribe right here on YouTube to get all the future content. Hope to see you soon.